Invocation. Reverend, please. Thank you for
Got ahead of you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members, and Happy New Year. It's an honor to be here with you again to begin this year in prayer. I'm here with my youngest son. We have 4 children, and this is Nathan Towns. He shares my middle name, Edward, and so a little bit of Randy there. He is an 8.5 grader at Creekview. He's an accomplished choir member, having 2 consecutive years in the all-region choir, and then also a student athlete, AB honor roll. Very proud of him and believe that he reflects the greatness of EMS ISD. So thank you for inviting us to be a part of the meeting tonight. Can we pray together? Almighty God, thank you so much for this evening. Thank you for this much needed rain. It's a reminder that you really do take care of us. And so this year we begin with our hearts turned toward you, Father, and our desire to ask for wisdom, ask for knowledge. Father, I pray on behalf of my neighbors and my community members here that take up the charge to lead in such dynamic ways as each individual calling is lived out in their lives this year. Father, I pray your blessing on them and ask that you would orchestrate and coordinate all of the effort that is done on behalf of the community that we live in, that we love so much, and pray that you would bring about the beauty, bring about the prosperity, and obviously bring about the greatness that we enjoy in this area of the state of Texas that we live in. Father, we pray for all of the need that is present around the world, even as this new year begins, and ask that we might be the answer to our own prayers as we pray for your mercy and your grace to cover this land. Father, thank you for this night, and I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Item 2C, item 1D, auditor participation. If there's an item on the agenda you wish to speak about, please see the city secretary and fill out a form. We have one public hearing tonight. You don't have to fill out a form for the public hearing. I will call for folks to address the council at an appropriate time. All right, moving forward to 2, consent agenda. I've had a request to pull 2D. We also need to pull 2C because the Mayor Pro Tem has a conflict on that one and has to abstain. So A is action regarding minutes of December 2nd. B is action regarding minutes of December 5th. So I'll entertain a motion for those 2. Mary, please.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve items A and B on the consent agenda.
Do I have a second? Paul, second? Okay. Motion passes. Thank you, folks. And let the record reflect we do have a quorum. All right, so 2C, the Mayor Pro Tem will excuse herself. Remind me to go get her, please. 2C is action regarding Chapter 380 Economic Development Agreement, Incentive Agreement, 416 Belmont Street. Keith, anything you want to add to this while it's open?
Just a reminder, this was one of our building improvement grant applicants for the Saginaw Laundry Center. What they're wanting to do is upgrade their systems, make them more accessible to the users, the washers and dryers more accessible to the users with a kind of a debt card or EBT card payment system and credit card payment system. If you have any questions, I think at the last executive session, the council agreed to up to $5,000, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Any questions for Keith? All right, I'll entertain a motion then on 2C.
Mayor, I move that we approve 2C as is written.
Do I have a second? Randy, second? Let's vote. Can you abstain for Valerie? Oh, there we go. Motion passes. Mayor Pro Tem abstained. I'll go grab it. There's a door alarm going off. Somebody, who's the right person? Take a look at that before it does. What's going on? The alarm on the door is going off. Before more of Russell's fine people show up at our council meeting. We'd love to have them, but I think they're busy. Thank you. Item 2D, action regarding approval of request for payment under Belt Mill PID reimbursement system. That's Kim Quinn. Hey, Kim.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This is a request for payment to the developer. It's the first one under the PID. We have a reimbursement agreement that was approved by the council back in December of 2021. As I mentioned in the council item, there are no taxpayers' monies. This is all assessments from the PID going to pay the developer. If you've got further questions or more detailed questions, we've got Zach Little from P3, who is our PID administrator. Between the two of us, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, questions on this one on 2D? Cindy, go ahead.
I was driving past that area today, and I noticed there was a for sale sign for about 4 acres or something. I didn't know how that related to what this zoning change was.
Yes, ma'am. So the for sale sign doesn't really have an effect on this. So this is just the developer has been constructing the infrastructure for the PID, and so the county has collected the assessments along with the property tax at the 131 of each year. And so we're just proving up the costs on this to show that this developer spent it on infrastructure, and we're just reimbursing them those dollars from the assessments. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Hey, thank you for coming, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you
If
very
not,
much.
I'll entertain a motion for 2D.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve 2D as presented.
Do you have a second? Cindy, second? Okay. Please cast your vote. Motion passes. Thank you, folks. Thank you, guys. And as I mentioned earlier, excuse me, consent agenda items are things we've already discussed and come before council at least informally, either in an executive session or we've approved them for the budget. So I would like us to really focus in 2024 on answering those questions ahead of time. Our time's valuable. The city staff's time is extremely valuable. Remember that a lot of the city staff folks have been here since 7 a.m. They don't need to stay till 9 p.m. for a council meeting if we can be more efficient. So please, I encourage folks to do that in 2024. And also, I apologize if I am tired or cranky or short. I am jet lagged. I haven't been back in the U.S. very long, so my apologies. And no news, I'm not hungover. There's a difference, okay? It's a jet lag. Moving forward. Nothing 3. Item 4, 4A, at 6:08, we're in a public hearing. Consideration and action regarding approval to consider an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for the city of Saginaw regarding a change to the development plan for the square plan development, the shops, on approximately 4.9 acres out of this survey, et cetera, et cetera. Susie,
Mr.
welcome.
Mayor and Council, happy 2024 to everyone. So for this public hearing, this is going to be in regards to the square development plan on the frontage of Saginaw Boulevard. There's 2 maps provided in your packet. The first one is what is currently adopted, which shows 2 structures for this project. The second page shows 1 building. So the developer for this project is proposing a development plan change from 2 separate buildings to 1 building. They're wanting to do this in order to increase efficiency with their space. This would allow them to have 1 additional space and thus more tax revenue, more amenities for residents, as well as they're going to be able to enhance what businesses they bring in by utilizing the frontage on 287. And we do have the project manager here today if you'll have any specific questions in regards to their reasoning. But with that, do y'all have any questions for myself?
Any questions for Susie? Any questions for the developer? Oh, do you have a question, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, one is, I did send some questions in ahead of time. One is, it wasn't unanimous in the zoning, and it would have been, did go look, it wasn't on the, we hadn't updated the zoning thing, so I couldn't see the meeting minutes. And I know that there was a gentleman who voted no. It would be nice to me, I always like to know if somebody just, I'd like to know why.
Of course.
Why. But second off, what's their overline? I understand taking two buildings, moving to one. Now, originally, when you have two separate buildings, when I went and looked at it, they're kind of nice buildings, standalone. And what I'm afraid of is when we combine the two buildings together, are they just going to turn it into like a little strip mall with these little bitty shops right next to each other, like down Saginaw, Maine?
Yes, sir.
And would that hurt us from actually getting a sit-down restaurant in?
Of course,
Or
those are,
something like that? I mean, something a little bit nicer, so.
yes, sir. Those are,
I'm very, very concerned about that.
of course, those are very valid questions. I know that the project manager did bring some renderings so that you can see what the schematic would look like. So I'll let him answer that question. In regards to the P&Z minutes, I do apologize about that. We did have a 3 versus 1 vote on that. That person did choose to vote against because he was under the impression that 2 separate buildings that lapped in between those buildings would allow the retail and restaurants behind that to be more visible. But the project manager on this side also, to combat that, they are saying that because this 2 separate buildings, they were going to have it around, so it was going to be one building, but parking and whatnot were going to be around. The frontage on 287 is also added on that, so you kind of have 2 sides to everything on that. But that was the main reason that that member voted against that.
So his main concern was visibility of this.
Yeah, he was afraid that the visibility would deter those sit-down restaurants, kind of how you mentioned. But with that, I will introduce Mr. Sagar Hamani with the project manager.
Good evening, guys. My name's Sagar. I'm the project manager for this project. She answered most of the questions, or most of the comments I was going to make. The main goal for us was to, make this project more efficient by just converting those 2 buildings into one. And I know your concern was, you don't want to have, a strip mall type of situation with small little shops. We do have 2 or 3 leases already signed for this property based on these renderings just alone. 2 of them are already sit-down restaurants with approximately 4,000 to 4,500 square feet each. So they are relatively larger and not just small mom and pop shops. One of them is a sushi / ramen combination, and then another one's a crab station, which is like, the sit on your table, oysters and crawfish and all that kind of stuff. There's those. And then we're in talks with a nail salon that wants to come there, but we haven't finalized that yet. But
You want to hold up the picture for the renderings for us?
oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay.
It's a pretty old rendering. Sorry, but it tries to illustrate just a
You hold it up
concept.
for the folks on camera at home can see as well? And I just got feedback, our voices are really low, so please sir, just turn on your mic and speak up, everyone, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, nice. Jokes. Very good.
Oh, I was dead serious.
Oh, you were? My wife just texted me and said she cannot hear us very well, so.
Okay.
I'm always afraid I'm too loud, but I guess not. So go ahead, I'm sorry to interrupt, please continue.
No, yeah, with that said, I mean, if there's any other questions I can ask or answer, please let me know.
Other questions, council? Cindy, go ahead.
Do we have any anticipated time when these 2 restaurants are planning on opening?
As soon as we have the design kind of already started, we're waiting on final approval so we can get this ball moving. The earliest we would, or within 1 year.
And how many sites do you have available that you are able to lease for different types of businesses?
For this one is just in this lot. It's just those 5. It can hold up to 5 tenants if we choose to, but like we said, we wanted to keep these restaurants a little bit bigger. We do have a few other lots on the other side, which I've been in talks with Keith to find some new restaurants as well, right? So some coffee shops as well, but mostly Mike's Hot Chicken and like bigger
Chicken?
restaurants. Yeah, bigger restaurants.
You did not say chicken, did you?
Mike's Hot Chicken was one of the ones we're talking to, but it's a lot of open-ended conversations right now.
Okay. You can get on the microphone so people can hear you.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to piggyback on one of those questions that you had, Cindy. So this would be the first step in their process for their civil project. The PD amendment would be the first, and then it would be their civils would come through with their site plan. Once we approve that, dependent on how today goes, they would either go back to the drawing board or they would introduce a new topic with that. And so that would also depend on the schedule for that.
Thank you, Susie. Any other questions for Cigar? Anything else you want to add, sir?
No? Happy New Year.
Will you hold up that one more time, the rendering? We like renderings and pictures, so, okay. Very nice. Thank you, sir. Any other questions, council? All right, thank you, sir. It is a public hearing. I will open it up to anyone in the audience who wishes to speak. Now is your chance. You don't have to fill out a form. Just approach the lectern and please. Seeing none at 6:17, I take us out of a public hearing and I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-02 as presented.
Do I have a second? Nick seconds. Please cast your votes. Motion passed. Thank y'all. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Cigar. Appreciate the update. We look forward to this project moving forward. All right, going on to 5A. Consider action regarding consolidating emergency dispatch service with Lake Worth. Chief of Police Russell Ragsdale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. We first proposed the consolidated dispatch project in a memo to council back in July of last year. In August 15th to be exact, we made a presentation to council. Who gave us their approval to continue looking at benefits of consolidation. And it was during this presentation that Councilwoman Big Horse made a comment that gave me great promise that we were on the right direction. And she said, I love the ideal. I think this is the direction we need to have gone months ago. With that, council blessed us to continue looking into consolidation. There were concerns from council as well. We addressed those in an update that I provided in November to council. I also provided that in your council packet that you have today. During the November council meeting, council provided no new feedback, but continued to support staff moving forward with consolidation. Today, what we have is a presentation that seeks the action from council to officially adopt the consolidation with the City of Lake Worth. So in your packet, you have an IOA which addresses the terms, services to be provided, the financial obligations of the partnership, and we strongly believe this consolidation will increase service, enhance safety, improve resource allocations, reduce overall cost, improve interagency coordination, and improve standardization and training for our dispatchers. So with that, ultimately we believe we are going to reduce risk and save taxpayer money, and with that I'll open to questions that council may have.
Council, questions for Chief?
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
So Russell, when you came to the council, excuse me, saying we were shorthanded in the dispatch area as well as a few officers, the council agreed to give our dispatchers a raise.
That's correct.
Then you came back to the council and you said it wasn't enough to hire dispatchers that were trained, and so we upped that. And then we were told that we had 15 candidates for dispatcher positions, correct?
That's rough.
And we were hopeful for the department and thought it was going to work out. Then there was an unofficial hiring freeze because Lake Worth came to us and wanted us to consolidate with them. And it wouldn't be fair to the new dispatchers to get hired and then the consolidation go through. They had Lakeside thinking they would consolidate also, so there would be 3 of us. When Russell brought this to the council, he thought it was a good idea. He thinks it's a good idea, I guess. The council wanted to proceed with gathering information on this consolidation. We wanted to learn more about the process. I do have a question for Doug real quick. Doug, since we partner with Fort Worth on 911 dispatch, has our fire department been receiving way more calls than before? And before you say anything, I'm asking, please understand that I know we partner with our surrounding cities to help out, and I know they do the favor back to us. But I was told that there are more calls now to our firemen when we're still shorthanded in the department. Is that true?
The question is, do we run more calls now that we're partnering?
Now that
with
we've
Fort Worth?
consolidated with Fort Worth and this other one?
We do, but that's not strictly related to dispatch. That's related to more our partnership being our mutual aid partner. It wouldn't matter where we dispatch from. Those are two distinct differences.
Okay, so, okay, that answered that. Okay, so Saginaw and Lake Worth are not even blended neighbors, meaning that our boundaries don't touch each other. Fort Worth surrounds Saginaw. And if we consolidate with Lake Worth, should we expect expedient service? Yes, because our citizens deserve the best. But I've called them 2 times, and while you've been training the dispatchers over there, and both times, the dispatch didn't know where in Saginaw I was talking about. One was the First Baptist Church on Old Decatur Road, and one was a racetrack on Saginaw Boulevard. And they didn't know where it was. So, then I heard that the prep work had already started for this consolidation, and the council hadn't given them a go-ahead yet, to my knowledge, and it's almost completed. So a question to Brian, how can staff do things without the council's approval, such as getting all this started? Is that okay?
So
First off, if I can answer some of those questions. You're stating that we move forward with consolidation, which we've not. What we've done is I've placed my dispatchers with Lake Worth specifically for training. I've made that perfectly clear to council
Right.
from the
They were trained.
moment that we implemented that. I could stay with training with Motorola Flex Spillman, get 4 days worth of training for whatever comes in that day is what our officers or our dispatchers get trained on and nothing more.
Okay.
Or I could send my dispatchers over to Lake Worth, who's already on Spillman Flex. They received training in that manner, a full 30 days of training, which is far superior to anything that Motorola Flex is going to give us. And then if council doesn't want to move forward with this proposal, then we bring our dispatchers back. There's no harm, there's no foul.
Okay.
Our dispatchers have been paid by us, they have our benefits, they're on our schedule.
Okay.
They report to our supervisors. I'm not sure what you're referring to when you say that we've moved forward with this without council approval. That's
I'm
not
talking
the
about
case.
all the IT work and everything that's been going on, all the,
The IT work is specific to
Consolidation.
the Motorola Flex agreement that council agreed to 2 years ago. And so that is the dispatch RMS. That has nothing to do with dispatch at this
Okay.
point. The portal that's there will benefit dispatch, but that that's taking place right now is specific to the Motorola Flex Records Management System and CAD program that council agreed to 2 years ago that we've been working with Motorola to get implemented.
okay. So per your informational memo, you state here, it's kind of contradicting, that's why I'm asking.
Okay?
It says employees would have to apply for their jobs. This was done in an informal manner. Every one of our employees have passed the background process and are prepared to receive a conditional job offer.
That's correct.
This job offer will only occur if the consolidation is approved. All of the dispatchers intend to accept the job if offered. So are they going to get a job, or are they just
So
being offered a
Our
job?
first meeting in August, or I'm sorry, August 15th, the primary concern specifically of you, Mayor Pro Tem, was what would happen to our employees,
That's right.
specifically to their pay, to their benefits, and whether or not they would have a job if consolidation took place. It was during that meeting that we talked about doing a soft launch, if you will, on applications to make sure that our folks would have a job if we decided to move forward. That's what took place. Our employees have undergone the background process, they've undergone the interviews that need to take place to meet TCO requirements for record retention on employees. So we've done that.
Okay.
There is a conditional job offer that is prepared. It's not been offered. It will not be offered if council does not approve this project. And again, that was specific to the concern that you had about what would happen with our employees if we
Yes.
decided to move forward. So this was an anticipation of trying to meet that demand or requirement that you had to make sure that our employees were employable and ready to go to work in Lake Worth should that happen. That there wouldn't be any sidebars, if you will, that would prevent one of our people from being able to have a job and go to work for Lake Worth if we decided to move forward with consolidation. So that's all that's been done up to this point. There is nothing that gives my folks a job over there. If you deny this proposal today, my people come back to me. They're not offered a job at that point with Lake Worth. There's an agreement between myself and JT that we're not going to poach each other's people. And so, again, if we don't move forward with this proposal, we bring this right back in-house, and our folks come right back to us, and it's as if nothing ever occurred other than 30 days worth of training that's far superior to anything Motorola Flex is going to give us.
Okay. Well, this decision is going to affect our city, our residents, as well as our employees. And so I don't understand why there's such a hurry and y'all want to do this so quickly. This is Saginaw. It's not Fort Worth or Lake Worth. And I understand sometimes consolidating, it might be good for some things, but if we outsource our employees, what's going to happen to our PD? We're going to have a blank building there that you can't get help because the officers will be out. I've called twice, and I don't know how many other people have had problems with it, but like I said, our employees are professional to our city. Our employees know everything about Saginaw. And those other employees, they don't know Saginaw like our employees do. And I just feel like that we do not need to do this at this time. We need to check into it more, a little bit more.
And I appreciate that opinion for sure. But I'm telling you that the recommendation of our region is for consolidation. We can get on this wagon early on, where we have a say. We have a say into the conditions that our employees go into, whether or not they are eligible for employment with an agency under consolidation. We still have a say in how the rules are made, how the whole program is ran, because it's ran through an executive board. If we continue to wait until the magic day that someone else pulls that trigger, we have no say at all. We get assigned to an agency, whether it be Fort Worth or it be Arlington, it be whatever.
Right.
We have no say whatsoever other than adopt their policies, their procedures. They may hire our folks, they may not. So our folks stand a higher potential of not being employed in an agency like that. I definitely see that this has far greater benefits moving forward now than if we sit back and wait to see what happens a few years down the road. When we start talking about employees, I've got 4 employees right now that are in consideration with Lake Worth with this merger. We did do a temporary hiring freeze to keep from having additional employees that would not have a job. Again, that was a specific request of yours. That's how we've tried to address that, not to have additional employees who'd be unemployed through a merger. As we move forward with that research, in November I provided an update. There was 0 feedback from council as to concerns, other than yes, move forward. I was prepared to answer those concerns had they been there. I gave the update at that time that our folks had already been through the basic background aspects and had jobs waiting for them if their merger was approved. We have never acted or considered that this merger was pre-approved and tried to move forward with any kind of action on our part. What I have tried to do is prepare my employees to be the best employees and best prepared that they can be. And that was the purpose of the 30 days of training that we did at Lake Worth. What I can say is in the 30 days that we've been there, our responsiveness to calls has been higher. We're answering calls quicker than in-house based off our own stats for the past years. Our drop calls are fewer. I mean, there's a number of things that I can have JT step up to the podium and give you a whole number of PRIs, your performance indicators, that have shown that in the interim, in this training period, which should be the slowest time to answer a call or to respond to a call because everybody's in training, is just the opposite. We're actually seeing higher volumes, not just of calls, but in responsiveness to those calls. And so if you look at that data alone, you got a 30-day free ride, if you will, to see how this merger might look. And from a statistical standpoint, this merger looks great. It looks like we have great benefits and improvements to our employees and to our citizens in our response to calls. So that's what I come to you with, is I can tell you that here's my recommendation based off the research, here's my recommendation based off the analysis that I've done personally, and here's the recommendation I can make based off 30 days worth of soft intel that we have that indicates that this is a beneficial program to move forward with our city, with our citizens, The difference that we're going to have between what fire did with Fort Worth is we have a complete educational campaign push out to our citizens. They will know exactly who's answering the call, and it won't be Lake Worth PD. It's Northwest Emergency Communications Center. And so it doesn't have a PD name on it. It's not associated with any one city. They represent multiple cities. And that's how those phones will be addressed. That's how calls will be addressed. And I will tell you from a standpoint of officers on the street, the data and intel that they get from dispatch has been no change from what they got with in-house dispatchers thinking that our personal service would be better than a group service. And that's what I bring to you tonight, is a proposal that I think saves taxpayer money and improves service. Dispatchers may not always know a particular address. And I will argue, if you go to Dallas, you go to Fort Worth, you go to any number of cities that are larger than us, Watauga, even, who's the same size of us, that's a multi-jurisdictional dispatch center, their dispatchers aren't specific to their city, and that's not important. I don't need a dispatcher to know exactly where a business is. If they have an address, they can send an officer there. That's what I need. And I would argue that even our in-house dispatchers don't always know where every business or every address is when it's given as a description instead of an address. That's the benefits of 911.
Well, then I have something else. In their contract, it says that they're going to process, rescind, confirm, and otherwise manage warrants for Saginaw. How do we go from dispatch to warrants?
I'm sorry, Nancy, what?
In the contract, it says that services provided by Lake Worth, process, rescind, confirm, and otherwise manage warrants for Saginaw.
That's correct. So currently, as part of dispatch, what their responsibility is to confirm on warrants.
Okay.
That doesn't happen unless it goes through dispatch or somebody actually called the courts. And so as a dispatch center, they will be responsible for confirming warrants for the city of Saginaw. So they will have access to our warrant list, our felonies, our misdemeanors. When another agency has someone stopped on traffic that shows a warrant hit, they're going to call dispatch, which will be the Northwest Emergency Communications Center if the proposal is approved. And those dispatchers will approve that warrant the same as if they were calling into Saginaw, or if they're calling in for a Fort Worth warrant, or calling Lake Worth for a Lake Worth.
So just, so can, I just learned this when I went out with your guys a couple of times, is not all warrants are the same.
That's correct.
I just thought a warrant was a warrant. And I know that some warrants, they have to, like say warrants out of Fort Worth, they gotta get it confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if I'm not badly mistaken, we had a couple that night where at a certain time of night, Fort Worth just don't confirm them. So if it's not confirmed, you know, we write the ticket or give them a warrant, whatever it is for ours, and then they move on.
So typically, what you see in law enforcement, especially with stressed resources,
Yeah.
is Class C warrants, which are traffic warrants, pretty much specifically, are not confirmed certain hours of the day, or may not be confirmed at all. Like county will not confirm any Class Cs right now because of jail situations. They will not confirm their warrants. And again, you're talking about very low-level traffic type warrants that have no bearing on the safety of society, so it's not a concern if those are confirmed or not confirmed. I think what you're referring to. Yes, Class C warrants today, right now, during our training period, do not have access to our Class Cs during nighttime hours. So those are not being served during the nighttime. They are served during the daytime. So as the portal is open, when I say the portal, we're still talking about the records management CAD system. That was part of the IT stuff that you mentioned earlier. So as the IT stuff is worked out, our CJIS compliance is obtained, and that portal is open, the access for those warrants becomes probable and likely, where those warrants can be confirmed after hours, even for Class C warrants.
And so right now, the only one that's consolidating, if we did it, would be us and you, right? Correct?
That's correct.
Do we want to hear from the police chief from Lake Worth? I appreciate you coming out. Would you want to just say a couple words, sir? Since you're here, I'd like to take advantage of you, and if you don't mind.
Feel free, step up.
Thank you, Chief. And I apologize, I can't pronounce your last name. Please remind me, and welcome.
Monishagan, but JT will be just fine.
Welcome. You want to give us an overview, anything from your perspective that you would like to add? I'd just love to hear your viewpoints on a few things.
Yes, Mayor, thank you so much. I've got some KPAs and KPIs that I'd like to share with you, if that's okay. I don't know if I can put this up on the screen, but Mr. Lawson, that was one of the things that you had asked for at one of those previous meetings, is how are you going to measure the performance of the center? How can we ensure that we maintain or provide a superior level of service back to our community? And so, while not official, we did take the opportunity to gather data during the training period, as it would give us the best look into the future at what we could expect during a consolidation. Is there a problem on my end? There we go. Maybe that'll help.
I think it's on our end. Mine's black too.
For me? Yes, sir. Okay.
The typical IT response is to reboot, so that's,
Of course.
hope we don't need to do that. Mhm.
Try one more time. Worst case scenario, we've got a few books that we brought and we can do it old school.
Where's our IT?
Can we hook it up through Keith's, your workstation? Would that be better, Keith, you think? If he brought his computer over there?
You bet. Happy to bring it to
Let's
you.
do that.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, all right.
There
We're in
we
business.
go. Okay, so what we did is we began training on December the 5th, and a lot of our staff went out on Christmas break or New Year break. So we did a 2-week capture of data, and that's what we're going to present back to you tonight. If you'll go to the next slide, just a brief overview of what the KPAs and KPIs are looking to capture. The KPA is, you can think more big and broad, a specific area, and then as you dive into that area, what are the individual indicators that we're going to look at within the area to assess the performance? Next slide, please. So there were 4 main areas that we identified during the training period. One was emergency call answering and speed of answer. The second was administrative call answering and speed of answer. Third was customer satisfaction. And fourth was quality assurance. Emergency call answering and speed of answer involve some national standards that our center adheres to. The administrative calls involve standards that we've set as a part of NWECC. And then, we'll get into how we're going to measure, or how we measured customer satisfaction and so on. So for emergency call answering, the NENA, which is the National Emergency Number Association standard, is 90% of all calls shall be answered within 15 seconds. It also says that 95% of emergency calls should be answered within 20 seconds. And then we have a KPI for our NWECC standard, which is the average answer speed. So how many times is the phone going to ring before somebody picks it up? Our standard is less than 5 seconds. Okay, next slide. So this is what it looked like. We captured data from Saginaw.
I got a question for
Yes,
you
sir.
on that. So when you say answer, that doesn't mean answer and put them on hold. That means answer and immediately take care of it, right?
Not necessarily. I'll give you an example. In our plane crash, we had 100 calls in just a matter of minutes.
Right.
There's no way we can answer and
understand that.
speak
That's an
and handle.
outlier. Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
So generally speaking, in your average incident every call is getting answered. We're speaking to them on the phone until completion. But there are certain instances where that's not possible, and it doesn't matter how big or small your agency is.
Agree. Sorry, I focused on it, KPI, and I'm like, okay, well, at 5 seconds, does that mean they're gonna answer it and just put it on hold? Oh, we met it all, we just put everybody on hold.
Sure. And we'll get into the quality assurance and customer satisfaction. If we did that on the front end, we would get beat up on the back end and it would show. So we do have some checks and balances. But what we did, just as a point of reference, is we went back and we looked at just Saginaw's performance in September, October, and November leading up to the training period. And on average, the NINA standard was exceeded. You were in the 95th percentile of answer below. Once the training period began, that actually improved to 99.5%. So 95% was good, it was beyond the standard, but it got even better during the 2-week training period. So we really can't get much better than the 99.57, although we will try.
That 99%, is that because of the training or because you have more people sitting in that office?
There's more people sitting in that office. We are taking more resources and spreading them over both of our cities as opposed to trying to do that just with our own teams. So when we combined, we were able to provide a higher level of service.
So if we were able to hire the 15 that applied, we could bring that back up to 99%?
That I can't speak to.
You would think?
We're not approved for 15, the most,
No, I'm just saying, if we hired from that party of, or
so
that
so
packet
we
of
would have
15.
7 employees. At no time would we have 2 on the console at any given time, which is what the merger allows us to do. There's two dispatchers on the console during most times, 3 during peak times. And so if I stay with my 7 dispatchers, I have 1 on the console at any given time with occasionally a second on console during peak times. So we still have a clear improvement resources available in a joint system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next KPI is speed of answer. These are 911 calls coming in. Saginaw was not within the NWECC standard, and the 3 months prior, within about an average time of 6 seconds to answer an emergency call. But during the 2-week training period, that was reduced to 3.5 seconds. Okay, next slide, please. The next KPA is the administrative calls and speed of answer. The criteria is very much the same for administrative calls. Just because it's not an emergency doesn't mean it's not important. And so we feel like giving just as much focus and attention to the administrative calls is important for both communities. So we set the NWECC standard at exactly the same as the NINA standard. So our goal as a center is to answer emergency calls at the same rate and speed that we answer administrative calls.
So is administrative calls what layman refers to as non-emergency?
Non-emergency, yes, sir. The regular line. So when we go back and review performance, Saginaw teetered right on that 90 percentile range, but in the 2-week training period, that was increased to 99.5%. So much more efficient at handling the administrative calls. Okay, the next slide, please. This shows the administrative speed of answer. So, and when we look at the data in totality, it looks like September was an outlier. Not really sure what happened there, but it fluctuated between 5 and 6 in the months prior to that. But in the 2-week training period, administrative calls were answered at 3.85 seconds. So very speedy answer.
Chief, during that September time period, wasn't that when we had the new dispatchers?
It was.
And they were just trying to get acclimated to the job?
I had 2 dispatchers trying to train 2 dispatchers.
So that would explain why that number was out of whack.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next slide. Okay, customer satisfaction. So we have a survey tool that goes out automatically to callers after they call in and speak with a dispatcher. they're asked to rate the level of service that they received from 1 being poor to 5 being great. And then they're asked a follow-up question that gives the caller or the respondent the opportunity to leave a comment. Those are sent automatically. We don't have anything to do with it other than to read the responses when they came in. So looking at that citizen positive satisfaction score and keeping it at 90 or above is one of our KPIs. And then we also want a high level of response rate on those surveys. So we have a self-imposed criteria of greater than 10%. Academically, we would be happy with anything between 8 and 12%. So we tried to keep it in an acceptable range. So during the 2-week training period, we saw a 95% citizen positive satisfaction score, which exceeded our self-imposed standard. And we saw a response rate of 33 1/3%, which well exceeded our minimum standard.
Can you dig into that and differentiate between the rating, say, in the Saginaw area versus Lake Worth area?
I'm not sure, but I can look into that. The surveys go out and are assessed based on the 2-letter designator that we have built into the call type. So for Lake Worth, it's now 24LW and then a number. For Saginaw, it's 24SG and then a number. And I believe using those 2 letters, we can split that out. But again, we would do this for call takers. So it's the same group taking calls for any participating community. Okay, next slide, please. These are some actual phrases that people have shared about the dispatchers during the 2-week training period. And these are just a few. There were, it was 95%, so overwhelmingly positive feedback. These are just a handful that I selected. I thought that they were exceptionally nice. And then finally, how do we ensure that quality is delivered? What are we doing to manage ourselves and quality check ourselves? These are some of the things that we have in place. Our call takers are required to do a minimum of 1 self-review and 1 supervisor review per month. And then on the dispatching side, so that's just the phone answering side. Then on the dispatching or on the radio side of things, they're also required to do 1 self-review and 1 supervisor review per month. Each one of those forms has 33 individual KPIs on the call taking one, and they're doing 2 of those a month. And then on the dispatching side, it has 30 individual KPIs, and they're doing 2 of those a month. So in total, there's 1,320 individual KPIs that we're looking at for quality assurance. If you'll go to the next slide, it'll give you just a brief look at what that quality assurance sheet looks like. This involves going back and listening to the call, reviewing the call notes, etc., and filling out this sheet. Once that's done, it totals over on the lower right-hand side. That's where we get the score. If there's a substandard score, then that triggers supervisor intervention, remedial training, etc. And these are things that are already in place. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so we did do the quality assurance assessments during the 2-week training period, and these were the results. On the call taker side of things, the average score was 97 1/3, with the high being 100, a perfect score, and the low being 89, still well in compliance. And then over on the dispatching side, again, high score, 97.44, and a high and a low of 184. So really good overall. Even with trainees being in a new environment with a new CAD system, performance was just off the charts. So really, really positive. Next slide, please. And then this is just a look at the call volume over that period of time. So you can see 911 calls, administrative calls, and all calls plotted over a 24-hour period during the first 2 weeks of the training period, just to get an idea of when combined call volume was higher and lower. In using this, we would schedule manpower accordingly to ensure that we had the 3 people on duty during the busiest times of the day, which, as you can see, is between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. That's about all I have in terms of the metrics that we're going to look at. Again, these are our best idea. We're operating in a training environment right now, so these could be further refined should you agree to join NWECC. And just to emphasize a point that the chief made, we really, really, really don't want this to be a Lake Worth or a Saginaw or a Blue Mound project. We want to all align under the NWECC umbrella and allow that organization to be neutral, serving all communities equally. We've learned from the examples set by other cities who have tried and successfully consolidated. We know that sometimes there's frustration or even animosity because there's one agency perceived as being more in control or having more say than the others. And that's why we've gone to great lengths to create NWECC with the Executive Advisory Board bylaws where everyone has equal participation and even details down to the logo and the name are neutral and represent everybody involved rather than one lead agency. So happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. This is really for either chiefs. These KPIs, let's say we do the vote to move forward with this. At what point in the future would be a good time for us to look at the KPIs again and see how we're doing? 6 months, a year? What do y'all think?
These are being gathered every day, every minute of every day.
But at what point would be a good time to have a good representative amount of data and bring it back to council to review? What do y'all think?
I personally think you're looking at probably 6 months if you're looking for a good representation of data.
Yeah, to see how we're doing. So 6 months, okay. You agree with that?
Of course.
That's about right? Okay.
We'll look at it on a weekly and monthly basis.
Sure.
And compile it. And if this representation is acceptable, we'll present it back in the same way.
I know the rest of the council feels, but I would love to see this data, if we go forward with this, to see what this data looks like in 6 months or so. Yeah, see how we're doing.
Yeah, I would like to see that added to your monthly report that you send out.
Talking about the KPIs for dispatch? Yeah, make that happen.
I actually read your report, so.
Right.
The second thing is, and this is because of Treats Mantis talking to some of our police officers here and stuff. And one of the things some of the ones I talked to is pro this is because due to us having shortages within they got put on hold. So I would really like to know or have some way to measure how often, one, our police officers are getting put on hold over on that side, and then also when our citizens call in. So I would like to see some type of measurement to see how often we're putting our citizens on hold when they call in, and then also too when our police officers are calling in.
Okay.
But to clarify real quick, I mean, we shouldn't have officers calling in. That's what the radio's for. There has become a.
We're not calling in, I guess, on the radio, right? When I say calling in.
So, if you look at today's policing, especially in small agencies, instead of using the radio, they feel more comfortable on the phone because no one else hears the conversation, so they make a phone call into dispatch. Mm-hmm. We're actually trying to alleviate that. We want our officers to be on the radio. We want it recorded. We want the supervisor to hear what it is they have to say. So we're trying to push that back to the radio, and there shouldn't be any hold time on the radio. Officers take precedence when it comes to dispatching with radio calls.
Okay. So it should be 0 then?
That's correct.
That'd be an easy KPA for you.
Your radio takes precedence over your phone, just from a procedural standpoint, and dispatch can vouch to that our radios are definitely our top priorities, which is our officers' lives, no matter what city we serve. So, please understand that.
Right. Other questions for Chief JT? Yes, Mary.
Would there be the intent and/or the capability to add more cities as time goes on?
Yes. We want to ensure that the service remains superior, and we would want any growth to be intentional and well thought out. This was a natural partnership because our cities were already working together anyway. Fire works great together. We shared the emergency manager. You know, there was a relationship there. So yes, the hope would be that it could grow. We don't want it to grow too big where it would impact service. But the more people that participate, the lower the cost for all participating cities. And so that is obviously an incentive that we want to lead with, is we want to be fiscally responsible for the communities that we serve. And by bringing more people to the table, it's able to help every participating community. Yes, ma'am.
So.
Other questions?
The thing out there it's hanging out there is, I think it's Tarrant County is pushing their warning that they're going to require consolidation. Basically, if cities and stuff don't start consolidating, they're going to come in and eventually do it. So this is what we've kind of heard. There was a meeting here a while back I think the Tarrant County, there was some talk about it. So can you, that's, to me, if we see it going to happen in the future, I would much rather start moving in that direction already because I have more control over it than wait for Tarrant County or whoever it is force us and say, no, you're going to go here and this is what you're going to accept.
And
So-
I agree with that. I think their literature says just that without an actual timeline on it. If you read the study, that's exactly what they're saying is they anticipate the next 8 to 10 years there'll be consolidation that's really more required in every region because their resources only go so far. And their study said that under current conditions, they cannot keep doing what they're doing. And they've already stopped the loan programs, the grants that they were giving out. So our city was a recipient of about $25,000 in grants every year. That's gone away as they anticipate Next Gen 911 coming into play. So as that comes into play, those costs are pretty significant, and they can make a bigger bang for the buck, if you will, if they have fewer PSAPs in which to try to fund. And that's their goal, is to keep our cost as low as possible without making cities come up with funds for Next Gen. Next Gen 911 is a very expensive move from a technological standpoint. So.
Mayor?
Paul, go ahead, please.
Just a couple things to reiterate on that. I attended the Mayor's Council banquet with the mayor, and Sheriff Wayburn spoke as the keynote speaker. And one of the things he brought up was just this fact that either we can do it on our terms now, or it's going to be forced on us, and it may not be something that we like. Another comment, I went through this in the town I came from up in New York. A lot of the same pushback and everything, and it all ended up working out great. Village residents got better service through the town, and everybody was happy, and it's been over 20 years. So.
Thank you, sir.
Cindy?
Yeah. First of all, I want to applaud the dispatchers for the work that they do. They are truly unsung heroes. The number of balls that they have to juggle at one time is just truly amazing, and the fact that you're able to get the numbers that you are is just unbelievable. It's incredible.
It's a testament to them.
It's a tribute to the people that we hire. One of the things that concerns me is, Bren, can the county really force us to consolidate like we keep hearing?
Yeah, so I'll let the chief weigh in.
The way they do that's through the funding. All the 911 equipment, Tarrant County 911 District provides that. So you may not be able to have to consolidate, and consolidation is coming, but we would not be able to afford to maintain our own.
Okay.
And that's definitely coming.
Okay. Second thing, one thing that we don't, and I agree with you, Chief Ragsdale, when this first came up, when we couldn't hire anybody, I did ask about consolidation. That seemed to be the logical thing to do. But what concerns me the most is how quickly this is happening, because your first response to this was it wasn't feasible. to do this. And then, let me finish, please. And then about a month later, it's like, man, we got to do this. We have no choice. And the fact that we're doing it from August to now in a very short time period is concerning to me. I'm not sure that we've thought this through. There's a lot of information, like the Tarrant County report that you sent to us across the state of Texas, where these departments have gone out and they've taken a year to do this study, to plan for this, not 3 months. They've had town hall meetings with their citizens to ask them how they feel about implementing this consolidation. And I think those are legitimate questions and things that we need to offer our citizens because they do fund this. The other thing that I have a concern about is when we talked about this initially, Saginaw was going to pay the lion's share of this because we have a higher population. But when I look at this report that was provided by Tarrant County, there's not a lot of difference in the volume of calls between Lake Worth and Saginaw. And it seems to me that the dollar value needs to be placed on the volume of calls, not the population. And so before we move forward with this, I would like to see the difference in those numbers.
So we can address that for certain, but there's a number of metrics that aren't being looked at when you look at just calls for service. Number of officers on the street, radio traffic, your footprint, if you will, your square miles, what we're capable of in our city. There's a number of metrics that aren't detailed in something as simple as looking at calls for service.
But then we were just looking at population based on the information that we got before. So again, all those details you're talking about were left out of that equation.
Everything that goes into the equation for determining cost is actually shared between number of officers, the footprint of the city, and includes the calls for service. So there's a number of dynamics there that are being looked at. JT can speak probably.
I do have it here.
Apparently, I guess it wasn't very clear to us, or to me anyway.
So in order to assign cost, we looked at population, number of sworn officers in geographical area. The weight of population was given 38, number of sworn officers 60, in geographical area 2. We did not want to look at calls for service because we did not want to incentivize doing less work. And that's something that we had learned or taken away as a lesson learned from other consolidations, that when they joined, if calls for service was a metric used to determine cost, then chief administrators in those agencies were telling their team, don't do so much. And if you do less, we pay less. And that doesn't benefit a citizen in any way. So we did not want to use call volume in there at all, believing that that's what would be the best thing for the citizen.
But I mean, couldn't you give it a lower number like you do, like that 2% that you're looking at, or a number of 2?
We could, but again, we felt like including it at all would provide some incentive to reduce
But
the
again,
work that was being done.
From my perspective, from my taxpayers' perspective, the fact that we're having to base it on such a high percentage of population, that's a bigger hit on us.
Chief, do you know offhand how many calls for service you have in the average year?
Prior years were right around 18,000.
Okay. So even that, we were at 13 or 14,000 last year. You know, it's still going to be a higher number for Saginaw if we used calls for service.
Right, but I mean, I'm looking at this chart that was provided to us, and it's about 10,000 and 11,000. I mean, so it's not that much difference for 3.5 times the population. And that's a concern, you know.
Understood.
That's a concern to me,
Bet.
you know. And again, the fact that we're rushing this when it looks like most of the other entities have taken a year, that they have talked with their citizens to kind of get their feel on this. I just feel like we're kind of rushing into this a little faster than we need to.
Understood. I do want to let you know that we do have a public communication strategy in place and prepared to communicate with all the communities, should this be something that you decide to move forward with.
Why can't we do that before we decide to move forward with it?
It's completely up to you. I just wanted to let you know that that was thought about. It's prepared. I mean, it just needs to be sent to press.
But 3 different reports I looked at, they talked to the citizens before they move forward. I'm not saying no to this, I'm just saying I don't think we need to rush this so quickly.
Understand?
And I have one more.
Mayor, did you have a question? I don't want to leave. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have one more, Russell. Let's just say we do this, okay? And the contract and everything, we can always get out of it in 30 days, okay? So if it doesn't work out, after we do this, spend all this money, it doesn't work out, we back out of it, what is somebody gonna order us to do it with another group, a consolidation group?
I think if we vacate this consolidation, that's what you're looking at in the future. If you don't choose to consolidate with someone else, then you're going to be assigned a consolidated agency at some point. And I'm not saying that's going to happen here in the next 5 years. I think 911 study alone was 8 to 10 years, possibly longer. But it's all based off financial need and financial demand. They cannot continue services at the current rate. They're spending more than what they're bringing in on their 911 incentives based off calls. And so they cannot continue to operate the way things are. So that means they pass that cost on to us. It's my understanding, and I'm not the IT guy that understands all the stuff with Next Gen 911, but if we have to fund that, you're going to be looking at probably over $1 million just to fund Next Gen 911 updates in our city alone. By consolidation, that cost is shared between agencies through Tarrant County 911. So we're not paying much of it at all if they can't fund it all, but if they fund 2 agencies individually, there's less money as opposed to funding one agency that's consolidated. So double the funds can go to one agency for one set of equipment instead of 2 agencies for 2 sets of equipment. But to answer your question, yes, I believe that if we decide 6 months from now that this is a no-go, we don't like it, we can pull out of it and we can decide to do our own thing. And when consolidation happens, we can wait to be assigned to another agency and we'll just take what we get. And that's kind of what the city will be left with. And I have no control over that. If it's more than 6 or 7 years, I probably won't be here to be the one to lead the agency through it. So I can't tell you what that looks like in the future because I don't know. If costs continue to increase as what we've seen over the last 3 years, I think that $1 million today will be easily $3 or $4 million 10 years from now. So how much is the city willing to spend on a gamble, really, is what I look at.
You say this is a cost savings. What is the actual cost savings of this consolidation? I don't think we've seen any of those numbers.
So when you're talking about the first 1 to 3 years, you don't see a whole lot of savings. First year is minimal savings. Second year, our cost is actually a little over what it would be to keep staff in-house. But if I keep staff in-house.
What is minimal? Can you give me a ballpark figure? 10,000, 100,000?
Our original numbers, we're looking at around $40,000 or so in savings the first year. Then second year, that cost increase would be around $60,000 to $70,000.
That would be the savings?
That would be the increase next year.
No, what would be the cost savings if we consolidated versus if we stay and we hire the number of people that we need here?
So, as I say, it depends on the years that you go out. So any venture that you do, the first 3 years are your most expensive aspect of any venture that you do. Whether it's start your own business, you do a consolidated effort, throw whatever you want out there, the first 3 years are your most expensive.
Understand that.
What the benefit is as other agencies join, and that's what our goal is, to bring in other agencies such as, I really don't even want to name agencies because that's...
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, good idea. Don't do that.
And so there's a number of agencies that we're looking at that we would like to court into our program.
But one's already backed out, right?
One of those agencies join, our costs drop down to around $200,000, which is a $300,000 savings. And so, again, it really plays out on who's part of the system, when they join, and how far out we're looking. And as more agencies join, our costs continue to get lower. So the first year, we're seeing savings, yes, there's small savings, as I said, that 30 to 40,000.
Okay,
Second
and I
year,
can
we
live
see
with
an
that.
increase. But overall, when you get to year 3, if one other agency joins us, which that is what we are actively pursuing, our costs drop by over 300,000. So that would be your savings on year 3, is 300,000 in savings. Again, it really depends on the agencies that join, when they join, what their size is. But there are a number of agencies that we are looking to court and move forward with that. You're asking me to speculate on something that I really don't have good information on, because I can't tell you who might join us or who might not.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah, I know that,
Before I go, do we have more questions for Chief JT, or can I let him sit down?
yeah,
Can we-
I don't care which one of you, but I want to look back around to this, but mine was, okay, if we approve it today, do you have what's the next steps? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? And then specific, I guess, to you, if we don't approve it today, if we deny it today, what does that look like? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
So I moved my dispatchers back. We start hiring dispatchers to make up the 3 vacancies that we have. So we'll have those costs moving forward.
How about equipment upgrades? I know
In the next
IT.
budget year, you're going to be looking at around $120,000 for upgrades to consoles that are now 16 years old in my dispatch center. We put that off because of the aspect of looking at consolidation.
We can,
There's a voice recorder that has to be replaced. You're looking at $18,000 for it, just numbers off the top of my head. There's a data line that we have to keep paying. That's $12,000 a year. These are all things that I don't have to do moving forward if we decide to consolidate.
so we'd be looking at, get them back on, get people hired to start replacing that. And then rough estimate, a capital investment of 150,000 plus whatever reoccurring cost was?
That's
I think you said
probably
20,000?
about correct.
Okay.
Now, in addition to that would also be the extra employees we hire if we decide to move with consolidation at that point. They're not guaranteed a job. Is how do we move forward with that? If consolidation is our effort to look at, then we have employees that we're going to put on the unemployment line because there won't be room for them on consolidation.
If we put this off for 30 days and we leave our employees over there to continue their training, and during that 30 days, we collect a little bit more information, but, the council is asking about, like, Nick would like to see the stats broken out between Saginaw specifically, maybe get a few more numbers on what our estimates are or projections, worst case scenario of the savings that it would be to our citizens, and take that time to have those town hall meetings. Again, my concern is that this wasn't feasible and now we're rushing to get it done. I mean, I'm just looking at another 30 days. I'm not saying I'm opposed to this, I'm just saying I think we're pushing it too fast.
See, I don't think we've rushed. I think I'm impressed by the job these gentlemen have done to move this forward. You got to remember, we've had issues the last 24 months. The chief has been coming to us saying, I don't have enough dispatchers. And that scares me. Dispatchers are dispatchers are the hub of this wheel. We don't have a dispatcher, we're out of business. So I view this as a necessity because this will guarantee that we will always have a dispatcher. Somebody will always be answering the phone. And I was really worried in the last couple of years with our staffing and issues, we couldn't hire anybody. That was really scary. This alleviates a lot of that. We can't delay everything that comes before the council. I get very tired of that. We have to make decisions. That's what we are here for, is
We
to
don't
make
delay
decisions.
that much.
I'm still talking, please. So we need to move forward with this because dispatcher issue, I like the potential for cost savings. It makes a lot of sense as where agencies are going. I like the idea of us taking the reins on this and doing it on our own instead of being forced to do it by somebody else. That does not sit well with us, and it should not. So this is a great idea. I think Lake Worth is the absolute ideal partner. We already have a relationship, as you mentioned. We have a very good relationship. I see this moving forward. When you call 911, you don't care who answers it. It's going to be a Saginaw police officer that shows up. It's not going to be a Lake Worth police officer. It's going to be a Saginaw police officer. And if somebody calls 911, even if that dispatcher doesn't know where something is, our guys do. If you say there's an issue at the Great Western Inn, our folks know where the Great Western Inn is. Our police officers have no problem getting there. So it doesn't matter where the person is that answers the call, who they are, it doesn't matter at all. It will get to our people, and our people can get to that place quickly and efficiently. So This makes a whole lot of sense. It really does. And I don't want to keep you standing up. Please sit down. I feel bad you said, but I appreciate you coming out, Chief JT. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for your support.
Yeah, I got one more. Just so that we talk about, it does, if you're on the outside looking in, maybe it does look like we're rushing, but can you kind of give, I know you guys have been having weekly meetings. I know that you had tons of different professionals in there, because I came to the one meeting and you had a checklist of issues that you guys were working off. If you could maybe give that, explain that a little bit and how you're working those off and the different, I know you had IT professionals, you had people from from Denton County there.
Yes, sir.
Sheriffs, everything.
So to make sure I don't miss your previous question, yes, there is a plan in place that if approved tonight, we will begin executing first thing tomorrow morning. So we pre-planned, everything is in place. If we get the go-ahead, we'll begin that tomorrow, but not until then. Regarding the planning and preparation for NWECC, this has been 2 years in the making. We have traveled the state to visit different centers and look at different models for how to do this. We've taken a deep dive into the literature to see what has been written, not just theorized or not just stories passed down person to person, but what has been studied, what is backed by empirical data that we could look at and review as a roadmap
And we
for
as in
creating.
Lake Worth?
I'm sorry?
This we that you're talking about is Lake Worth?
No, ma'am. The initial meeting involved probably a dozen North Texas municipalities, police departments. But we had a lot of people at the table, a lot of people who are really interested, and a lot of people who I think are still interested down the road. But in those meetings, we've included Tarrant County 911, iWorks, who represents our IT. We've had your IT folks, we've had your police department, your dispatchers, your communication supervisors. We've had AT&T from an infrastructure standpoint. We've had the Motorola Flex representatives who have been step by step with us through this whole process, even through your implementation, to ensure that the decisions that we were making and the plan that we were putting together was cohesive with this new go live, this new product that you were going to bring on board. So we've tried to do that in lockstep to ensure that everything was synergistic, well planned. We met every other week going back since probably August or maybe before, and then going up to your go live, we met weekly up to and through the go live. Our city, our police department has sent over all of our subject matter experts. Of course, your folks are with us in our facility, and we're giving them the very best training that we possibly can. And that's all in good faith. We're not asking for anything in return from that. Our council has been very gracious in saying, we want to be a good neighbor. Let's help anybody that we can move forward with this. So all of that has been an in-kind service. So while it hasn't been a quick process for us, and it's been well thought out by all of the leaders involved.
Any other, I haven't heard from Paul, anything on your end on this, sir? You have a lot of experience in this area. Any comments or feedback from you, sir?
Just what I stated before, I mean,
Okay.
I'm all for this.
Okay.
I think this is the direction we need to go. I'd rather do it on our terms than to force down our throat.
Sir?
Randy, anything? Mr. Edwards, anything?
No, I think it's been explained very well. I'm ready to move on with it.
Mary, anything from you? Because I haven't heard from you, so.
I think it's a no-brainer, and it would be a very wise decision to consolidate.
All right, well, thank you, Chief. I really appreciate your time. All right, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We accept 5A and consolidate the emergency dispatch service with Lakewood.
Thank you, sir. Second? Paul, seconds? Let's cast your votes. All right, motion passes. Thank you, folks. Look forward to working with you. Thank you for this, make this happen. And I would like to see something like we talked about, 6 months, maybe come back and talk about KPIs. You don't have to come if you don't, but I appreciate y'all coming out, folks. Thanks for coming
Can
over.
we put that in our weekly report?
Yeah,
I mean, our
our
monthly
I think
report?
monthly is a good idea, yeah. But I'd love to see a 6 month just sort of summary from this, from the folks. All right, moving forward. 5A, consideration action regarding resolution 2024-01, revisions to the City of Saginaw personnel policies. Melanie McManus. Welcome, Melanie.
Good evening. In your packets, you'll see it just has some background discussion on the request into the revisions. We're wanting to change the holiday policy to where we don't have any floating holidays anymore due to the fact that employees working alternate work schedules have fewer floating holidays than the number of hours they were scheduled to work. And then also employees always wait till the last of the year to use them. And then also part-time employees aren't allowed to have floating holidays. So we're just wanting to change the 2 floating holidays to 2 federal holidays, which would be Martin Luther King Jr. Day and President's Day. And then I did give y'all a list of cities that I did comparisons, a study on. And basically there is, out of the 15 cities, I guess 1 county and 14 cities, there's only 4 that have floating holidays. So we're looking at changing that, and council just wanting your approval to do that. And I'll answer any questions you might have.
Question for Melanie?
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, go ahead.
MLK and President's Day are pretty close together. Is there a reason why we would not move President's Day over to Veterans Day? Well, I guess it's pretty close to Thanksgiving, but, just kind of break up.
It's up to y'all, basically, if y'all want to approve it. This is just these are 2 set days that are on Monday. Some of the days are rotating, like Veterans Day is
I know in our
rotating.
conversations, they're more recognized or in line with state and the county government, ISD.
ISDs, okay.
Yeah, and based on this list too, there's a lot of them that are those 2 options.
Other questions for Melanie?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve as presented.
Do I have a second? Mary, second? Let's cast our votes. Motion passes. Thank y'all. We're at 5C, considering action regarding a bid for Saginaw Switchyard expansion. Who's covering that one? Trenton.
Thank you, Mayor. On December 13th, Saginaw opened bids for the Saginaw Switchyard expansion project. We received 6 bids, with the lowest being from MHB Construction at $246,000. We checked the references from the contractor and their bonding agency, and we are recommending awarding the contract.
Questions for Trenton?
And how much money did we allocate for this expansion?
Kim knows.
Oh, go ahead. The last OPCC we had was $250,000. I'm not sure what was earmarked for the budget.
We've got a balance of $349,000 versus allocated versus what we've spent to date.
So we have 349,000 left?
Correct.
Okay.
The original allocation was $367,000
That's what I was thinking it was.
of the $4 million of parks bonds.
And the bid's 246, so okay. Any other questions? I was hoping Valerie would be back. I don't really want to take a vote without her, but I also don't want to be here all night. Excuse me, I'm sorry. No other questions? Entertain a motion. Paul?
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the bid award for the switchyard expansion.
Randy, second? Okay. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Trenton. 5D, update on pedestrian bridge crossing at Highland Station Park. Back to Trenton. Trenton and Randy Newsom.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an item that y'all have seen before. We've been back and looked at it at y'all's request, and I think we have a good plan that I really like, a lot better than anything we've done. That creek carries a tremendous amount of water, as we've explained before. You know, we've built a temporary crossing whenever we got blocked off from TxDOT to get across to mow that hill over there. 2 nights later, and it was 6 joints of 24-inch concrete pipe covered with #1 road base, and one of those big rains came and it was gone. So it carries a lot of water, and it's got a lot of issues over there, but we wanted to get a crossing, so to speak, across there for the residents that live in that subdivision area of Highland Station. And we went back, and I think all of y'all have, I think Trent, you asked about the new plan. I wanted to be able to put something in that we can come back and tie into when we do the channel improvements where it's eroding. Instead of going down to the north like you originally saw, we changed it and went to the Trinity Trail. And we're going to put a box in and then put a crossing across that box rather than building a structure across that creek. That way we can do when we add the improvements to the drainage ditch, to the CIP, and do it in phases, we can start with the worst part of it up there right there by Trinity Trail, put the boxes in. The boxes can come in and tie into the box where we put the crossing in, and we can go from there. It's also less expensive because we can do a general permit for the environmental stuff. We don't have to get into that 6 to 9 month delay for getting the permits to work in that area. It's something we can expedite. I recommend that city purchase the box, and then we bid out the construction, get a contractor in here and put it in. Something we can expedite now and get it done. I'll turn it over to Trent, and he can kind of go over the design if you'll have any questions about it, but I think it's really a clean product, and it's be really nice.
So I can talk through this briefly and then answer any questions. It's about 240 linear feet of sidewalk. We ended up at a 6-foot wide concrete sidewalk, which matches the width within the park. I know we had discussed doing 10 feet or 5 feet, but we ended up at 6. There'd be rails along the crossing as it crosses the channel, and then also while it runs between the house and the channel. I don't know if you can see that on the exhibit. And then, so like Randy said, we're kind of leaving ourselves some options by doing the box with head walls on the upstream and downstream side. That's the basis of the design, the conceptual design, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
What's the timing? What do we think for the timing for the bridge, or crossing, sorry?
So there is some lead time on getting the box, but I think we could be looking at building this this summer.
So maybe have something done before school starts in the fall? Is that feasible?
I think that's feasible.
Okay.
Also, another thing I want to point out is this also allows us to, whenever we attack that canal over there to fix the erosion issues, we put the boxes in, we can backfill all that, and then from our standpoint, maintenance-wise, we're able to get over there on that hill and that rough area over there and mow it and keep it maintained for those residents over there, which right now, for the last several years, you just can't get over there.
Questions? Yeah. Randy, got a question?
Since they reduced that down to 6 foot between the houses and everything, they're going to create more maintenance for y'all, or?
No.
As far as, because I know some of them over there had instances where they didn't want to mow between the sidewalk and the curb over in that area and stuff, and I just wondered.
No, our mowing contractor actually can go right over there and mow it.
Care of that too.
Yeah.
Other questions, folks?
So we'll have it done before school starts?
And
I mean,
what's
if we approve this tonight, you can get that covered ordered tomorrow, right?
I sure can.
Cool.
And what's the cost difference between the last proposal and this one?
We were at $350,000 the last time, and we're down to $220,000.
And
what
that
makes
completes
difference.
everything we need, right?
This is everything you would need for the crossing only, not the larger scale, obviously.
The difference in the two is one, we went from a 10-foot sidewalk to a 6-foot sidewalk, which exactly matches what's in the park.
Right.
And they went from building a big bridge, I deemed it the Golden Gate Bridge of Saginaw, to these cupboards, in which Randy likes better because it gives him more ability to backfill. So that's where the cost savings are coming from.
And then we could discuss, once we get this done, we can discuss phases in the future as to when and timing and cost and all that good stuff. So this would,
That's correct, and also doesn't deplete our drainage utility fund if we wanted to, attack the whole thing at one time.
right.
We can build the bridge, get the residents access into the park, and then phase in our CIP, the phases of the ditch improvements.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
So Mayor, before we vote on this, I would like to hear, since we got our parks guy here, what he thinks of this.
We do appreciate having our parks guy here, though. Thank you, Brack.
Brack St. Clair, 421 Creek Terrace. I want us to be smart with our money, and I want us to do things right. And I think this is a good compromise between what was presented earlier and the more simplistic version that I have in my mind. I'm not an engineer, so I would like to get away with spending $100,000 on this thing, if at all possible. But I understand there's other things at play, and I don't want to kind of bind ourselves by spending $100,000 and then coming back later and having a bigger expense to make some corrections. If this is going forward, going to improve the overall park, in addition to providing a crossing, then I'm all for it.
I think this is really nice because it gives us a foundation to tie into the other work that has to be done. I think if we went with some of the proposals I had sent in with the low water steel crossing, knowing that we've tried this before, that would basically be a temporary fix and would eventually be ripped out by the flooding coming. So understand that.
I think too, cost savings and maintenance, this versus a bridge. Bridges cost money to paint and do everything else with. And if it gets washed out, then we're out that money where this box culvert's not gonna get washed out.
Thanks, Brack.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions on 5D, folks?
I do have one.
Go ahead.
Do we have any idea what the erosion rate is in that channel? What the erosion rate is in that creek?
The erosion rate?
Yeah, I mean, how fast, how much erosion are we looking at every year?
It's probably taken, I don't know, 10 or so years before it's really starting out to get worse and worse and worse and worse. It's not something that we got addressed immediately, but it's something we need to put in the plan to keep an eye on, and then get it. The part up there where the bridge is going to be, or the box culvert to be, and Trinity Trail is the worst of it. It'll be the very first phase that we go ahead and do now, or as soon as possible. The rest of it can kind of be pushed down the road a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, Cindy, is your question like, do we have to do this in a year or 2 years? Is that sort of your question? Like,
Well,
how
I was just
how
wondering how
quickly?
quickly, I mean, because it's been there, what, 23, 25 years?
Yeah.
And then now people are starting to complain,
Yes.
about the erosion. And it's just, what's the rate that it's eroding? I mean, is it increasing every year? Is
It is
pretty
getting
much the
worse by
same?
the year. It
It's
is.
getting worse, okay.
Yeah, and once you start eroding, it starts accelerating. You guys they have been taking concrete over there in that one, we'll call it a bend, and dumping concrete in there to try to slow it down, but,
I guess as we talk about the future phases, we can see how critical it may be and how quickly we might need to find some money. So this is a good start, but yeah. We need to keep this on our radar, I think, is our takeaway message. Any other questions on 5D, folks? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve 5D with the understanding that it will be completed before school starts.
I'll second.
Okay. Please cast your votes. All right, motion passes. Thank you, folks. Let's make it happen. All right, next, 5E, consideration action regarding employee surveys and participation results. Melanie, welcome back.
Okay, so basically on September 6th, the council meeting, y'all had stated that y'all would benefit the employees with the token of appreciation if they had got 80% participation or 90% participation. We got 88% participation in the survey, so y'all had stated that it would be a half a day off work. So staff is recommending that the half a day that you are giving the employees be comparable to the number of hours in which they work, their normal schedule. So if you work a 10-hour day, it would be 5 hours. If it's 9.5, it'd be 4.5, and 12 would be 6 hours.
Are we giving this to part-time employees as well?
Yes.
Okay. Questions, council?
Is this your recommendation?
Yes, it's my recommendation.
I think 88% is pretty good. I didn't think we'd get that much, so I think that's a pretty good result. Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion then.
Mayor, make a motion that we approve the action regarding the employee survey as presented.
Okay. Do I have a second? Nick, second? Motion passes. Thank y'all. Thank you, Melanie. All right, 5F, I'm sorry. Workshop roundabout at Knowles and McElroy Boulevard. This is a request from Councilmember Bighorse and Mayor Pro Tem Junkerson. So y'all gonna discuss this? Who's gonna take the lead on this? Cindy? Valerie?
I'll just briefly, we had talked about this, we had talked about, the council had approved the design, I want to say back in December of 2020. I thought that design was going to come back to us because they showed us both the lighted intersection and the roundabout. We did have a town hall meeting after the fact, and the majority of the people that were there just don't seem to be in favor of this. And while many of them did say that they like roundabouts, they felt that this particular location was not a safe place to put one. And I just think it needs to be revisited for that reason. Again, to respect our citizens.
The council voted on this twice that I know of, plus the citizens approved this. So I see this as a settled matter. I don't really know what else there's discussing unless there's new information. If there's any new information, I'm certainly listening to that. When we were discussing this a couple of years ago, we got feedback from experts, a couple of experts in the industry that know what this means, and discussed about how a roundabout is, one, safer, a little bit cheaper, not much cheaper, and also traffic flows better. And Trenton can correct me if I'm wrong on any of those. The financial thing is very close, of course, but a roundabout works if the lights are out, if the electricity's out, roundabout still works. It forces people to slow down. People run red lights all the time. We know that. Forces folks to slow down. And where you're crossing is not in the middle of it. It's in a pretty safe crossing. It's about one of the safest ways to go. I don't see this as a huge issue for us to discuss, since we discussed it multiple times. I understand a few people have concerns, and that's fair. We can talk about it and explain it to them. But I can't let somebody on Facebook design our roads and streets for us. I can't let folks that don't know. I mean, it's our job to talk to the expert, to understand the issues, to ask the questions, and learn, and do a deep dive that citizens don't have the time to do. That's our job. We did that on this, we discussed it, and we voted on a roundabout. So I don't know what else there is to discuss.
Oh, well,
Mayor, can somebody bring up a picture of the roundabout on here?
Well, and one of the other reasons I'm concerned is I'd heard discussion about McElroy opening up to 5 lanes, but we're gonna have a single lane roundabout. And I'm just trying to figure out, are we gonna have to spend a lot more money in the future because we're not planning for that? That's another concern that I have.
That's a Trenton question. Trenton?
The CIP plan for McElroy, west of Knowles, is a 4-lane divided. East of Knowles, it's a 3-lane, or actually a 2-lane divided, the municipal urban collector, the boulevard cross-section. And then east of Main Street, it's a 4-lane section as well, so.
Can I say something?
Do you have any traffic concerns with the single lane roundabout as far as traffic congestion or anything based on how it's designed?
If we were planning to do 4-lane roadways on both sides of McRoy and we were necking down a single lane roundabout, I would, want to look at it as possibly a bottleneck. But since we're having 2 lanes of traffic on the east side through this section, because the vision that y'all set was for the municipal urban corridor, then I think it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Can I say something? During the town hall meeting, Trent, you were blindsided. I kind of felt sorry for you because you couldn't answer the questions for the customers and, our citizens and everything. The thing I think about this roundabout, the one on Bose and McElroy, that one works, but there's not kids riding bicycles down there. There's not a school adjacent to it that they walk back and forth from. And I see it all the time because I live right there in the Dominion. Now we've got elderly people on this side of the roundabout. We got little people over here. We got 2 parks over here that are very busy. And people stand there and they use that park and they walk right there in that intersection. It is noted on here that you are going to put the crosswalks back or whatever. When there's a line of cars, what are you going to do with those people? And all it's going to take is one child or one person to get hurt, and our city's going to be devastated over it.
That could happen at a
But this is
four-way
a
stop.
park.
That could happen at a 4-way light intersection. Somebody
It
could get
can,
hit.
but guess what? They stop. Those kids ride the bicycle, they see the red light, they stop. They see what the hand is and they watch it. And so that's what worries me. And I know it doesn't bother you, but it does bother me.
Roundabouts are safer, Valerie. The experts clearly told us
They're
roundabouts
not.
are safer.
They're not all safer.
How do you know? Do you have any new evidence to support these claims? I mean, you voted for this the first time, and B, what has changed and what new knowledge do you
Because I
have?
like roundabouts. I got no problem with them, except for when somebody tries to T-bone me, but that's normal, that happens because people don't know how to use them. But this is in a park. This is in a park. And Gabe posted, or somebody posted it on the city website as soon as I asked to put it back on the agenda. And if you go back and read those comments, people are against it. They're the ones that's paying for it. They're the ones that voted us in to take care of that.
Are they experts to that? I mean, just because they're mad and confused does not make them an expert on a roundabout. It doesn't mean they're right. So I can't let somebody on Facebook tell me how to design a road or tell Trenton how to design a road. We talked to experts. We spent a lot of time considering this and listened to things about this before we voted on it and said, yes, this is the safest way to go. Yes, I know it's a park. Even though it's a park, it's still safer than a 4-way red light stop.
But the majority of those people did say that they're not opposed to roundabouts, but they're opposed to it at this particular location.
So let's try
And
to
it's not just
untangle.
Facebook. It was the town hall. Yes, it is Facebook. It's just talking with the people on the street in general.
And the last time we talked about it, the street improvements on doing the final bid for phase 2 and 3, we talked about the parking on the side of the road and the parking lots for farmer market, am I correct? And about the parade route. We never once mentioned that roundabout. And on the thing on Facebook, Gabe, or whoever, I say Gabe because I don't know who put it on there, but he is mostly the one that does that stuff. So he said that it was featured and everything. If it was featured, why wasn't it brought out in all the agendas? Because it was only on 3 of them that I could see, and I've got every one of them here.
Mayor and council, if I could add, so December 20, the council chose to design the project with a single lane roundabout. I want everybody listening to understand that that was because we're all here to support the most safest option, including the Director of Public Works, the Fire Chief, Police Chief. We are not going to recommend anything that is less safe. I have found, as you all have found, that roundabouts are a very emotional issue. But data that is fact-based and verified shows that a single lane roundabout at this location is the safest option. This was designed as directed by the council. The contract was awarded for Knowles Phase 1 that included a single lane roundabout.
On the IPO.
That phase was highest priority because of drainage issues, so now that's in operation. We brought the Phase 2 and 3, which is essentially everything south to Longhorn, on May 2nd of 23. I have to get used to thinking it's now 24. The council chose to table that until following council meeting. we sent out a full construction set of plans to the city council so that y'all could review that before a contract was awarded, which was done unanimously the following council meeting, May 16th. So, you know, that's kind of the process. I understand and I don't empathize. You get
Did you once
emails.
mention in that last meeting when we voted on that, did you say one thing about that roundabout?
I sent an email to the council.
No, I didn't ask you what you sent to the council. I said, did you mention it, the roundabout? Was it mentioned at all?
I don't know how anybody could reasonably assume that we were not going to bring a construction contract for a project that was not designed as directed by the city.
Well, because when we were talking about it, we were talking about the parking from McElroy to Longhorn.
We talked about parking. That's
We talked about parking.
not related directly to that contract award.
But you never once mentioned the roundabout, and you tell everybody it was featured in there. It wasn't featured.
But we sent the full construction detail to the entire city council on May 3rd. All of you would have received that, including a detail that showed the intersection. It was made clear that it had a roundabout.
I think that,
Just a couple things, and again, I do recognize this is emotional. One thing and why this is safer is that a pedestrian, when they cross an intersection, only has to go halfway. I believe the middle part they call a safety island. So children and the elderly, as opposed to a signalized intersection that exists today, have to go halfway, can wait, and then cross. Whether or not we agree or disagree, it is proven that roundabouts slow the speed of vehicular traffic. No one here, myself included, could say, if we construct a single-lane roundabout, that accidents are going to go away. People, drivers make errors. We can say, based on data that the fire department can attest to, they are likely less severe and at a slower speed, which is thus safer for pedestrians.
so what you
That's
think
where
is
we
safer
are.
is putting pedestrians in between cars coming this way and this way.
It's not what you think. This is proven. That's just data. That's what we talked to those experts before about what is safer. They're telling us it's safer. Just because somebody on Facebook gets mad does not make them an expert on traffic safety.
I'd like to know how many roundabouts are in the middle of a park.
Okay, so let's,
That's what I'd like.
the one thing here we need to talk about, I want to get out here for the public, and there's been some misconception, is that there's pedestrian crossings through the roundabout. There is no pedestrian crossings through the roundabout. And I just want to point that out so that it is on the record. And if you look right here, as you're coming into the roundabout, you've got it's 30 feet before the roundabout. And that's where the pedestrian crossing is. And the pedestrian crossing is going to be raised, and it's going to have flashing lights, right? And that's on all four sides. Now, there's also, in the park over here, there's another pedestrian crossing. And I didn't know this until now. It says 500 feet away from the roundabout. And it's also going to be raised, right? Or is it? The crosswalk, illuminated flashing light, approximate, is it raised or not?
It is raised. It was not originally raised, but the
It is
question
now?
was brought up from council and we considered it.
You're talking
Okay.
about the one on the far left in this picture, right?
Yeah, right, this one, where we were, 500 feet away, that's just.
Gotcha.
So, I just want any citizens that's here, I've never seen a roundabout which has a pedestrian crossing going through it. That's kind of a violation, because once you enter into the roundabout, the whole thing is to keep the traffic moving at a constant rate, okay? So, to me, the big thing I wanted to get here tonight was to show the picture, show this roundabout, show exactly where the pedestrian crossings are, and whether you agree with it or not, the enhancements that was attempted to be made to it to make it as safe as what it could be. Now, I won't get into the arguments on whether this roundabout is safer or not safer than a stoplight, or safer than not safer than a stop sign. You can go look that up on the internet. There's tons of statistical data stating that. And regardless of whether it's inside a park or outside a park. Now, if we're talking about what it would take to make this 100% safe, to where no child or no citizen can get could get hit by a car, you're gonna have to build a wall, you're gonna have to stop them from crossing that road. That's the only way to make it 100% safe. And then you put I don't know, 6-8 feet wall down through there from here to there, and then build a pedestrian bridge across it, because we've already looked at, we can't go underneath, so we have to go over top. That's the absolute only way to 100% guarantee that no kid would ever get hurt.
I have a question.
Mary, do you have a question? Go ahead, Mary.
In my opinion, these crossings being pushed back, this actually makes that roundabout safer for pedestrians than what exists at this time. Also, we've had a lot of comments, not just in this meeting, but in other meetings, about elderly people coming and trying to cross there. In my 18 years of living in Saginaw and going, I live very close to that intersection, and I go up and down McElroy all the time. And when Knowles is open, I go up and down Knowles all the time. I have never seen a person in a wheelchair or a person with a cane or a person that doesn't have good mobility crossing. Maybe there have been some, I've never seen them. One reason why nobody living in those 55 plus or being in the skilled nursing facility, there is not a sidewalk on McElroy that they could use to go to that intersection. That right there makes it very unlikely that people are going to cross
It's on the plan.
on that.
It's
There
on the
is a
plan.
sidewalk
They're
there?
putting a sidewalk
There will
in,
be?
and I have seen.
And, you know, even if elderly people do decide to use that intersection as a pedestrian, it's going to be safer for them than what it is now.
But honestly and truly, in the last 18 years, there wasn't a senior citizen built there.
I haven't heard from Paul. You got anything you want to add to this, Paul?
Yeah, a few things. I wish we would have had this drawing when we had the town hall, because I have seen some comments of people that actually, once they saw this drawing, the crosswalks being further away from the roundabout, they're okay with it. Now, these crosswalks have a 3-inch raise. Unlike the ones on Marine Creek, that 3-inch raise, that's gonna act like a speed bump. People are not gonna be able to fly around with this. One of the things that I brought up and that was addressed was doing the one that's the 500 feet away. To me, that should be the main crossing for the park. That way you've got one area where people are crossing. Another comment about the safety aspect of it was the Friday before Christmas, there was an accident at that intersection, and part of Knowles is closed off, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but that accident ended up on the sidewalk. So if you have a pedestrian standing there waiting to cross at the light and there's an accident, that's gonna plow right into them, and how many people is that gonna take out? As Nick said, the only real safe way is if you got a bridge, and I don't think we wanna go that route.
Mr. Edwards, anything you want to add to this?
No, I mean, I like the roundabouts. I don't know about the pedestrian part, but I think if you drive down Harmon Road, you'll find them pretty close. The pedestrian crossings are pretty close to the roundabouts if they're not going through there. I've seen several, and I don't remember if it's on Harmon Road or Riverside Drive, but they do go through right there at the roundabouts, and of course, I don't know what kind of, I know there's a lot of apartments around there, but I don't have a problem with it.
I'm down Basswood all the time, the roundabouts in Fort Worth on Basswood, and their pedestrians crossing there all the time, kids on bikes, because that's, you know, a pretty busy area over there, a lot of people walking to different places. I like the idea that, and I'm glad we hadn't highlighted this before, the raised crosswalk, one to the south, 500 feet from the intersection. I like that we're raising that and putting flashing lights there. I think that's an extra safety measure. I don't know if we've highlighted that or discussed that before, so I'm glad we need to make sure folks know about that, and that really is a nice feature. So, and that will force people to come into the north to slow down even more right there, because there's have to go over speed, a raised crosswalk. Yes, Mr. Edwards?
Another.
That's on the west side along McElroy, that crossing that's 500 feet away. Okay.
Sorry, Trent. does the crosswalk on the northeast corner, you got a sidewalk going in there by the rehab center and everything?
By the detention pond.
Does that one have to go in there? I mean, is that something state regulated that it has to have a sidewalk? I mean, there is no sidewalk there now. So, I mean, does that one actually have to be there, or can you make it just be 3 crossings instead of 4?
I mean, I think technically you could reduce it. What would be the value in removing it, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's no sidewalks on the east side, that northeast corner. There's none on that side or none in front of the rehab.
Gotcha. So we're currently in the conceptual design phase for McRoy between Knowles and Main Street, and actually continued across Main Street to Spring Hollow. And we're planning to have sidewalks on the north and south side of McRoy.
Yeah, because I know, I may be wrong, Chief Spears, that there's not a sidewalk in front of the fire hall or the independent living.
There's
And
not
and-
until the roadway's redone. I
Yeah,
think.
so evidently
That's when
somebody,
the roadway's done.
at some point, Saginaw will have to come back and put one in there anyway. That's what I'm just asking, is, does it really have to be there, or can they do away with it and only have 3 crossings instead of 4?
If I remember correctly, the contractor that did the lodge, they gave money to the city to cover those sidewalks so that they didn't have to put them in and then we'd have to rip them up and do them again.
I'm unaware of that, but this would address the sidewalks they would have put in if that were the case. And then they will connect well with the improvements for McRoy Phase 3. So I think they make sense to go ahead and install now and provide access to those developments on that northeast corner.
Because how far in the future are we looking at McElroy? Years,
I don't want
right?
to steal Mary's thunder. She was planning on talking about this at the next item, but that is the next project from the bond program. So this Knowles Phase 2 construction should end after the summer of 25. So ideally, we would go right into McRoy. I think the funding is lined up to do that, or maybe even earlier.
Have we done any further traffic impact analysis? Because I know when I'm headed east on McElroy toward Saginaw, Maine, multiple times I've been stuck at the traffic light at Saginaw Boulevard, and that backs up, and most of the time I go over there to, was it Roberts, that's the one that's in front of your fire station? Roberts Road? I'll just wiggle on back over that direction so I can get onto McElroy, because I can't do it off of Opal. At least with the traffic light, that kind of slows traffic down a little bit. But with school releasing, with the train stopping the lights anywhere from 3, and I've sat there through as long as 7 cycles of the lights, I just see congestion possibly building up because traffic never stops. With the addition of, Willow Creek growing, with that new subdivision going in, have we done any further traffic analysis on this to see if the roundabout is going to keep traffic moving with all those conditions?
I'll address the signal at the intersection. We've talked with TxDOT on numerous occasions, went down to the district office for a meeting with them. The issue is the signal light, type of signal lights there. It's a camera, and the sun affects that camera, and the only way to fix that, they've adjusted it as much as they possibly can. Certain times of the day, the sun hits it, it just throws it all off. So radar is the next option that would fix our problem, which that's in their plans when they come through on 287, which is the next one after they finish that 35 corridor. Then they're going to address that.
One of the other problems that I see is that there's no left turn lane eastbound on McElroy. So, people that are going straight, like I said, that's what's holding up the traffic. And I see people swinging out all the time headed eastbound on the westbound lane to get around the traffic to make that left turn. And they don't even cut through Racetrack or Jack in the Box, they just, cut through. You know, putting a left turn lane in there might help alleviate some of that congestion that could build up with the, with this roundabout.
Yep, when we've been looking at the conceptual design, we plan to include a left turn lane, a designated left turn lane. We're also looking at a designated right turn lane, but ultimately, all that intersection is going to need to be coordinated with TxDOT, so that's,
So are those going to coordinate together at the same time?
yes.
They will happen at the same time.
What, the coordination with TxDOT and the intersection will happen at the same time. Are you talking about a different intersection?
I'm talking about the construction of the roundabout.
Oh.
And the possibility of a left turn lane.
No, I do not know the timing of the construction of the left turn lane.
Because again, around 11 o'clock, that's when it seems that I get caught at that traffic signal because the train has it blocked and traffic backs up for blocks. We're not talking just a little bit, we're talking tracks backs up for blocks. And I see the roundabout creating a bigger congestion.
So I think that's part of why the roundabout was recommended. It's, I believe the correct term is it's more efficient. So the peak time, which is maybe the morning, because it's bookended by schools, there will be less backup with the single lane roundabout than the signalized intersection.
What
Correct.
I'm saying is that if you have traffic stop because of the train and it can't go anywhere.
Right.
Getting people through the roundabout's just gonna build traffic up, back traffic up further down the road. And that's why I was asking, has anybody done any sort of analysis on the traffic, especially with the addition of the new rental property coming in down here, plus the growth of the schools?
And that's part of the reason why we're going to redo McElroy. We knew we'd have to redo McElroy, and that's part of the reason we'll have to. And it will be done after Knowles, as we mentioned. So but it won't be done immediately. It's going to be in the future, as you mentioned. So I don't know exactly when. I don't know when TxDOT's going to do their thing and we're going to do our thing. It'll probably be,
But-
well, TxDOT will probably be way in the future. We'll probably get done before them. But
I think to answer your question, there will be a full study done of the intersection at Main Street and McRoy with all the updated traffic and grow, that we always grow the traffic. I don't anticipate the queue ever reaching Knowles, but we would look at what that queue length would be with the existing configuration and with the proposed configuration. So we'd have that information once that traffic analysis is performed for that intersection.
I do have one more question about this roundabout. Why did y'all choose only 35 foot there? Because if a car's going 10 miles an hour and the reaction perception distance for them to stop going 10 miles an hour is 22 foot with 5 foot for braking, so the total is 27. But that roundabout is going to be at 15 miles an hour, which that's 33 feet by 11, which is a total of 44. So is there a reason y'all did 35? Just ask it.
The standard for setting the crosswalks from the inscribed diameter or the outside diameter is 30 to 40 feet. The reason is that's enough space to queue a car if a car is waiting and be out of the circulating lanes, but it's not enough space for them to start speeding up. So the further you get away from the exit of the roundabout, the faster the cars will start going. So that's not something we necessarily decide. We follow all the national and state guidelines for that.
all right, thank you guys. Hey, good discussion, folks. Thank y'all. Good information. Let's move forward.
So, Mayor.
Oh, do you have something else?
Yeah, well, one thing
quick.
here is there's been a continuous discussion on whether we've voted on, moved forward on this roundabout or not. So, to me, just to put the nail in the coffin, move it, I think we should have a vote here, and every council member, including the mayor, say yay or nay on whether we move forward with this or not.
And I think we've already done that, so I don't really want to re-adjudicate. That's not the right word.
I have
I
no
don't wanna-
problem beating a dead horse. I really, my recommendation, I can make a
I think the
motion.
thing
but-
that gets me is the individual, the IPO at the first said it was a decision for the clients, which the council is the clients, to go either or, but we never did the or. We never talked about it but one time. And then we talked about the roundabout 3 times. And it was not brought up in the last 2 times that we voted on something.
So that, there you go. So again, they say they haven't been brought it up.
It's
I
all
just-
right here, I mean.
But we already voted, and you voted for it, Valerie.
Do what?
We already voted.
I would thought we were, it said phase 2, we talked about the parking and everything. We never did talk about the roundabout. They said it was from the McElroy to Longhorn.
That's not what we're talking, we voted on this roundabout specifically. This was back several years ago when Patrick was still there, because he said, let's do a vote.
We did a design, on the design.
On the design, and we
Concept.
included a roundabout, absolutely. You want to design something and not use that design? Waste that?
I don't know, I think I asked the question in that meeting, if we don't like this, do we have to approve it? And y'all said, no, you don't have to approve the design if it goes to design.
We've approved the design, and we've also approved the bid. We've approved this 3 or 4 times. We've approved this. So Gabe, were you going to add something? You like you wanted to jump in. I don't want to.
We've awarded a contract, so if a majority of the council wants to renegotiate this, I suppose we could take a hand gesture. It's not an action item. If that was a desire, we could come back. But it would be at greater cost, would have to be redesigned. The contract was awarded
something, Randy?
unanimously by the city council on May 16th.
Randy, you want to say something? Go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't the roundabout going to be put off not this summer, but the next summer? Or how long is this going to be away before they actually do the roundabout?
The actual pavement for the roundabout will be in early start in 2025, but we've already started putting in some of the storm drain improvements that go underneath, especially on
Would
the
you have
north
to do that
side.
with the turning lane also, just out of curiosity?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Would you have to put that drainage in if we did the turn lanes too? Just asking.
Yes, for sure.
You would? And see, we put it out for bid in April. Excuse me, let me look at my paper. I don't want to say the wrong thing here.
I think you got that much time.
It was
If you wanna change it,
advertised.
They want to change their mind, and they can change their mind at a later point then. I mean, it's really not going to affect the design on that.
Well, you'd have to redesign the intersection, not to mention let the contractor who was awarded the contract say we'd have to change order it at some greater cost, if that's clear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the roundabout.
Well,
Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying.
And that's why.
Their decisions and everything that they're trying to make, and where they're stopping on one side of, north of McElroy, and where they're gonna start on the south side of McElroy, is that something that they've got a year if they decide they don't want it? I mean, my opinion, I'm all for the roundabout.
So, and maybe we just, if it's the council's pleasure, take a up or down to redesign it, because we're operating under a contract that's already awarded.
That's my
Here's-
point.
There's a majority to proceed with.
Why do we need to redo this? We've already voted on it several times. We've already said they're already designing it. The contract's been awarded. I see this as a moot point. We rediscussed it tonight. We talked about the safety issues, just so folks listening understand. We try to do the safest possible solution for the city.
None of that you said I disagree with. It's just that we do have council members that feel that their voice hasn't been, they haven't got to raise their hand. And to me, I got no problem doing an up and down vote to what do you call it?
And these plans and everything are already drawn out and everything, right?
The construction plans for Knowles Phase 2 and 3?
For the roundabout.
Yes, the roundabout was included in the construction plans that are
All those
issued to the
plans already
contractor.
Drawn out and everything.
Yes, ma'am.
But until it's built, anything can be redone.
I already knew that.
Can be replaced.
With
That's all I'm saying. I
Oh.
mean, we got yeah. I'm all for, as a supporting my other council members, you know, like I say, there's 7 of us on here. If 4 of them thinks that this needs to be revisited, then it should be revisited.
I
If
think
4 of them
from-
thinks it shouldn't.
All right,
then
fine.
it shouldn't.
Then I will entertain a motion.
I think this point in the future, you know, with something big like this, we need to have town hall meetings before council votes on these things instead of after. And I think that's one of the ways that we have failed our citizens here.
All right, as I said, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, make a motion that we revote, or whatever you want to call it, on whether or not we wanted the roundabout.
So it would be essentially to direct staff to prepare the necessary paperwork for redesign and review of appropriate change orders.
Yes, do you want to make that motion?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm
Do
sorry.
we want
Okay, I'd like-
redesign, or do we want them to bring forward,
What?
I don't want to delay this anymore.
do we want
I'd like to
redesign, or?
make a motion for the staff to redesign the roundabout as presented.
Okay, is there a second on that? No second, motion dies for lack of a second. All right, move forward. Item 5G, workshop 2023 work plan review and 2024 project discussion. City Manager Gabe Branham.
Mayor and council, I have a number of slides, but the good news is, in keeping with direction from past years, it's mostly pictures. So I'll go through these. If you have any questions, happy to stop and discuss. So for those watching, the City Council establishes priorities for the city each year by identifying projects that are the work plan. So these are priority projects that direct the efforts of all of our departments throughout the year. We completed an employee survey that was presented to the council, I believe, in October. A follow-up from that survey, we have a employee and a few council member committee that are reviewing some of the feedback in the hopes that we can improve and get better together. So that committee has met once. I believe they have another meeting, or their second meeting, next week. This was a new/old project, employee suggestion incentive program. My understanding was this was in place in the maybe early to mid-90s, somehow fell by the wayside, and it was recently re-adopted and approved by resolution by the City Council. So we're looking forward to informing employees if they have good ideas that save time, save money, are more efficient, then there may be a financial reward for them in the future. You might recall at our December meeting, one of our projects was customer service request reporting. So we are now on the iWorks system. We had a workshop at that time. It is live. Councilmember Lawson had emailed some questions about that, wanting to know when it's been unveiled. So it has been unveiled. We had a soft launch. It's been active since, I guess, maybe shortly after our December meeting. We're waiting on an app from the vendor so that we'll have an actual app. You can enter it in. This is just a screenshot of how it looks on mobile. We get a lot of website views on devices like a smartphone. So that went out, a notification went out in our January newsletter, which I think you all should have received this afternoon. This makes me laugh. You cannot make this stuff up. Somebody on Facebook, we posted this on Facebook, had a complaint about a signal at Heritage Trace and Business 287, which, as you all know, is not in the city limits. Hold off on fixing that, Mr. Newsom. I hope, as we work through this, that it'll be a benefit for staff as well. So the system allows, we can upload pictures and supporting documentation to a ticket, to a work order. We've had at least one meeting, maybe multiple, with staff in the field to get them accustomed to kind of updating these tickets, taking before and after pictures. That way there's no shades of gray, well, I called or I said this or that. So we will have general service timelines that we'll be pitching out. So if you have a pothole and it's a concrete repair, we're probably not going to fix it tomorrow. We could probably patch it relatively quickly, but it'll take time to contract and, replace a panel, something of that nature. So, yes, sir.
So soft launch, so you're calling it a soft launch. When will it be totally rolled out, done?
So, we're active and live now. We're just waiting. I think biggest hurdle is from the vendor on the actual mobile app, which, hey, people might not want to use the app. They can just as easily navigate the website on a tablet or smartphone. But yeah, we're pretty much live. We put that out in our January newsletter this afternoon.
Yeah, I seen it
And we'll
out
keep,
this month.
I think we'll probably work on some videos and, kind of how-tos, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm looking for is, I mean, we can roll it
When-
out, but we gotta, I mean, when's our next farmer's market? Are we gonna maybe pass out flyers
Oh, yeah,
there?
that's a great idea. I think,
I mean,
they're probably, that's probably enough
That-
time
I
to.
mean, that's what I'm
Like,
wanting to
like
see.
have a booth, the city have a booth there,
Yeah.
an information booth or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
pass them out. I
Yeah.
mean, heck, you know,
Communications Department.
yeah.
Let's do it.
You know, I know you got the Saginaw Resident page, the Saginaw Good Neighbors page, you got a couple HOAs. If we could send this to them, get a slick sheet, and send it to them, and say, hey, post this on your website.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, and
it's,
we could probably even do a utility mailer, a brief, so that it goes out to everybody. And,
Yeah, that-
and I think most people, if you call Public Works, people are not going to ignore you. I mean, Randy Newsom could attest to that. Randy Edwards could. You see chatter on social media, I called this or that in. It may happen from time to time, but I think this would be helpful both for staff to track as well as somebody.
yeah, by no
Submitting a
means of
service
me saying
request.
this, saying that it is. It's
No,
just,
no,
we've spent money for the citizens. It's an input into the city from the citizens, and to me, the more avenues we can get out there and let them, hey, look, we've upgraded this.
Sure.
It's a slick new tool that allows you to easier, faster, better log issues and track them. To me, that's good.
Yeah, I agree. Parks Action Plan, I'll address a few questions that were sent before our meeting. So the Parks Advisory Board has had 3, maybe more, special meetings to discuss items related to future park improvement. So a couple things. One, it was recommended to no longer entertain ideas about splash pads. After we completed our Parks Master Plan, maybe within a few months, the tragic incident in Arlington took place. There's some liability issues, I think, at least in our region, that most cities are probably not looking at splash pads because of that. The $4 million that is available is less than $4 million after the playground that's pictured, which is at Highland Station. The Parks Board reviewed many of the requests and decided to recommend improvements for the 2 playgrounds that had the most deficiencies once they were cataloged by the playground inspectors. Those happened to be Opal Joe Jennings and Brian Schwingler. We had a town hall meeting in November to talk about replacing those playgrounds in the near future, which based on feedback from that meeting will be bid, probably contract award, this spring, or just update the equipment there, the pour in place surfacing, that sort of thing. Trying to think, trail connections, if there's money left, or however much money we have left, I think the idea is to connect existing trails, which is a desire by residents, and or build new connections. So we're making good progress. Residents should see dirt moving soon with the pavilions that the city council approved this evening. That'll go to construction. Well, I think the goal is to have them built before the farmer's market season. End of April, yeah. So, and then we'll come back, I think Randy's talking with the county about expanding parking, which would be on that corner of Longhorn and Knowles. So good things coming. I'm trying to think the other.
So on the Park Action Plan last year, when we talked about it, there was a couple things in it. One of them was we just wanted an assessment of the equipment we had in each one of the parks.
That's correct.
Did that happen?
Yes.
Because
And the parks,
is anybody, because I haven't seen that, and I absolutely agree with the 2 parks that were but the others, I don't know.
sure. Yeah, we can send that out to the council. Yes, the assessment was completed. The recommendations, as we have in the past, would come from the basically, the hard work of prioritizing was delegated to the Parks Advisory Board.
The next thing on that, so when can we get that?
Oh, we've got a copy of that. Yeah, I can email it tomorrow. So it's basically a punch list of everything that doesn't meet the current park standards and most, if not all, the playgrounds that are not Willow Creek Station or Highland Station based on their age or deficient. So, but that doesn't mean they, need to be closed or anything.
Right, oh, absolutely. It puts us a plan together and prioritizes them. We've already started on the first two, and it gives us something to work with. The next one was, we did have on there, and we talked about the long-term park plan, because there's a lot more in that park plan than what we ever like to put a parking spot in the middle of Highland Station and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did we ever go back and update that?
So
to remove the stuff that we have absolutely no intention of ever doing?
So I don't think we've amended the Parks Master Plan, although we could pretty easily remove the and again, a master plan is not a binding document. It's a kind of a guiding document, but we could pretty easily bring back, remove splash pads, remove that parking there. Pretty simple.
It's supposed to be a living document anyhow.
It is, yeah. I thought of a couple other things that were mentioned that, or asked about. So there's the idea or request about a fishing pond, which would be really cool. There's a couple of locations, Willow Creek Park or kind of the back side of the Heather Ridge area.
Yeah, because we actually, in that one, we actually had, because me and the mayor was backwards and forwards.
Right.
And originally, I'm like, well, if we already got a pond here, why don't we just fix up around it? And we were supposed to get an estimate for that, what it would take to fix that up. And then there was a huge discussion on the Willow Creek and whether we could have a pond inline versus pump the water in. And I'm like, well, why in the world would we do that? But we were supposed to get an estimate on that too. Now, I did get your response back. You said it cost millions.
Right.
I'm going to challenge you guys a little bit on that. I would really like to see that breakdown on where the millions come from and how, because you said you had to go to Corps Engineers or whoever it is that controls the water. So I mean.
So I can give you that.
Okay. But I would like to know what it would cost for us to fit. I mean, we got a pond over here.
Yeah.
We're not even using it. I mean, I just took my 2.5-year-old son trout fishing a couple weeks ago over there. There was more kids and families over there. They worked through the Texas Fish and Wildlife Department to stock them. Why can't Saginaw do something like that? Work with the Texas Fish. We got a pond, for Christ's sakes. Just,
One of the issues with that pond is accessibility.
Is what?
Accessibility.
Okay.
It's going to require, y'all looked at that.
But that's what we were supposed to do all year this year, was look at that and come up with solutions.
We've got that. We've got the action plan that
We've got the plan.
that the Parks Board's been chewing on. So,
Well, let's just take that as an action item to.
yeah, we can
that
send it out.
information.
to
That
the
sounds-
council.
Maybe just bring that back before, I mean, if you guys have already did it, just send it to us so we can see it. We know.
The last idea related to the Parks Master Plan that I think the Parks Board has had preliminary discussions regarding is space at Belt Mill, desire to have a future like athletic ball fields. Was recommended or mentioned that the same could be done at William Houston. It all costs money. So, likely to implement the majority of these recommendations, we would be looking at a future kind of recreation or parks-focused bond election.
How many acres do we have at Belt Mill, potentially?
It's almost 7, I think, with the 2 tracks, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the Parks Board liked the idea of having athletic fields, so, which is a complaint, certainly people want more.
Another thing on there was trees.
Trees,
We just asked for each park, how many, any of us could walk through there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have, you don't have to be an arborist to walk through and say, hey, it'd be good to put a tree here.
The thing with planting trees is, again, is irrigation.
Is what?
Irrigation of those trees.
Okay.
No matter how hard you try and use those gator bags, they're human error. If they don't get down there and get the water in them, you're gonna lose a tree. So we want to try to plant those trees where we can get some irrigation to those trees. So we're gonna, here probably next week when Corey gets back, we're gonna go down and a group and go down through there and try to mark some spots. We're gonna start planting trees in March.
Okay.
But we want to get some irrigation established, which is what we're fixing to do at Highland Station on that berm. We're going to be getting the water in there, and then we'll put the trees across the top of that berm and make those improvements, and then we'll start targeting areas over in the other parks where we can plant trees.
Because that was the actual action item, was just come up with
yeah.
a tree plan. You know, I'm glad that we're starting planning, but that literally was it. How many parks we got and how many trees do we need to put in each park?
Yeah.
Paul, you were with me over at the TML where Texas A&M and the Forestry Commission, I can't remember which one it is,
Yeah.
they give away trees. I mean, have we looked at those possibilities for getting trees?
So we haven't talked to those folks. We did the deal with Encore. The problem with Encore is the trees that they give you are about the big around your finger and that. We have tried to plant a little bit bigger caliber trees where, you know, you can see them and they're more likely to survive. But we can certainly go back and look again with the forestry. I hadn't done the forestry, just the Encore, which is kind of in the same deal, I think.
Because I have a contact with AgriLife.
AgriLife. Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Gabe, real quick before
I'll
we
send you
move
that
on.
information if I can find his card.
So Nikki, all of these items you have, we definitely have a list of all these, and I told Laura if we're ever to talk about this master plan again, all of these need to be in there. We're a little unsure of when y'all want to see that new document brought again to council to be readopted, because like you said, it can be a living, breathing document, but in our experience, we usually just update those like every 5 years officially. But are we wanting to do an unofficial?
When was the last time we updated it? How long ago?
2 maybe years ago.
2 years ago? How
Yeah,
long?
maybe.
Year and a half.
Was it that, so in 22? Okay.
Because we had asked about taking out the splash pad, and we were told that didn't have to be done because this was a living, breathing document. It's
Yeah,
just
so
a
we're more than
guideline.
happy to make all those updates right now. We've
So,
got
I
the
mean,
list of
just send
them.
us something unofficial. It doesn't have to be an official update, just send us something unofficial.
We made it official to update in order to apply for those grants. So we had to have a fresh document that had been updated to submit with our application, which we did.
But at this particular time, we don't have to make it official. You could just send us
No,
some.
yeah, just send the correct.
Just send us,
But for the action for 24, we want to put a date in the ground and say, we're going to update it by this date. That's sort of what
Yeah,
we,
that we
right?
could, yeah.
I think that's, and I want staff to recommend what the date should be,
yeah,
but,
but probably 27.
no, I mean, sometime this year to update it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, we could do that.
Based on all our discussions.
Amend it formally. Yeah.
So y'all come back with a plan as to when and how we can make that happen.
It's doable, yeah. Next couple projects thankfully are underway. You'll recall in December, we broke ground on the new Library and Senior Center. You might have noticed they're clearing across the street. Probably the rain the past couple days slow them down, but they're doing dirt work and prep work and moving forward. Knowles Phase 1 has been completed, and 2 and 3 is underway. Salary study, we should be getting an update from the contractor. Sent you kind of an interim update in maybe October, November. The comparison cities were selected. Once we get a comparison or a final report, we'll share that with the council and go from there. So the consultant, Baker Tilly, is planning on presenting to employees to answer questions that employees may have, which I think is really, really helpful. So we're making good progress and should have more information for you here in the next month or two.
I thought we were supposed to have this in December last year. That was your estimate?
Yeah, so we should have a preliminary report in January, I think. Although we have identified the comparison cities based on recommendations from the consultant as well as staff. So I'll hop back to one thing. The mayor will include at the next council meeting. The mayor asked to inform the council our future positions based on growth. So I'll have all of our departments showing future positions as a reminder to everybody as we head into the next several months. And then based on the compensation philosophy that the city council adopted as part of the budget process, we have recognized that we'll look at cost of living adjustments based on Social Security Administration adjustments. So for 2024, that is 3.2%. We'll kind of include that as a baseline for cost of living adjustments for employees. We'll have better information regarding STEP and other corrections in the near future from our consultant. So we've got the library. Thankfully, dirt's moving now. We've got a path forward. I think everybody that's toured both of these facilities understands these are the two facilities that need attention next. You may recall our facility assessment done in 2019 recognized next door, which would be the old library, as an annex. That is still the plan. It just needs to be designed and then built. So in fact, I included project lists at the end of this for 24. We probably should consider design for the renovation next door, in the hopes that once the library vacates the existing library, Public Works building code can move into the new space. We had a facility needs, if you recall, that was probably in August from an architect related to the animal shelter. Again, the shelter is probably outlived what the building was intended to. The matter becomes when to fund a new shelter. We completed some focused code enforcement updates specific to kind of hot button issues in code compliance, carport ordinance, off-street parking. Made good progress on those two items throughout the year.
So on that one, I did send you an email, and the response I got back was I'd have to talk to the.
Yeah, so I wasn't clear. The question was, are we out of compliance with any other state laws or regulations? I have to double check. I don't believe we're out of compliance with anything code-based. Defer to the chief.
We should not be, but the
Yeah.
legislature has changed a lot of things, obviously city regulations, so I couldn't say with absolute certainty that we're not, but there is none that we are aware of. We try to keep up with them.
Okay, so all the one, because that's what I kept hearing, that citizens kept coming to me and other council members saying, well, we heard from code enforcement that a lot of your ordinances are outdated, or there are even conflicts between ordinances we had and stuff. And I just want to make sure it's all cleaned up. We're good to
It's not
go.
accurate now. From one code to another, a lot of them are intermingled. And
Yeah.
there's probably some cleanup to do as we go along with those. But these are minor. These are not big conflicts that we have.
Is that the carport that we approved finally?
What's that?
That carport, was that the one we approved finally?
I think that was a rendering of one that was proposed, yeah. I think that's correct, from an applicant. So I think we've had 2 approvals at this point under the new arrangement, so. Video communications, you'll recall during the budget workshops, we are bringing back the PEG channel, or that's the desire, which is Public Educational and Governmental Channel. So that is basically municipal access information. I think it's on Charter. We would be allowed a Charter channel where council meetings could be rebroadcasted, information dispersed that way. It would accommodate Roku as well, and I think I'm forgetting one. Fire Stick, yeah. So you may recall in our budget discussions, the number of cable subscribers continues to decline. We get fewer and fewer franchise fees because of that, but the streaming video is where it's at. We're also increasing, in fact, I think this meeting, or I know this meeting is, after we publish them, they go to a YouTube channel, which a lot of people choose to find streaming video from YouTube. So making good progress there, and we'll continue in 24. Survey action plan. Several things came out of the survey, but general information, citizen engagement, I think, was a theme across all departments. So we've probably quarterly we'll send out mailers on projects. This was one that went out a couple months ago on various projects throughout the city. Again, social media is maddening and makes you laugh, but we posted some renderings of the new library, and somebody posted, why not use the one in Fort Worth, and anyway. But it is good to get information out as much as we can. And
So the citizen survey we did, is these, it's been too long since I went and looked at, but I remember
Yeah.
when we originally looked at it, we had, we wanted to say we wanted to take the areas
The
in
top,
which
yeah,
was
yeah.
the, I won't say bad, but the weakest,
Yeah.
right? Is this, have we,
Yeah, I think generally the uniform feedback across departments was more information, more engagement. So a couple of things we've done in addition to these printed mailers. Oh, one thing, our electronic newsletter is now active. I think we have several thousand residents who can receive that. That's within the past year.
and it's,
So-
they request to get that, how do they get signed up for that?
So I think default when they, maybe Kim knows, when you get a new account and you have an email address, do you automatically get the email newsletter?
I don't think so. It's just they can, when they set up a new account, they.
They can
opt
request?
on- Yeah. they-
Okay. Yeah, I'd
So
have
how
to get,
does somebody who's lived in
He's
Saginaw for 20-some years know about this? Because I don't get it, and I don't know how to sign up for it. So
Right.
if I don't, I'm just assuming that the majority of Oda Henry citizens like myself probably don't know how to either.
Keith may know. It used to be on the website. I know when I first started working here, I just signed up.
It did used to be on the website where you could sign up. I think a new website was rolled out, and I'm not exactly sure how it works right now, but I'd have to go back and look at it.
You have to go to 77.
I know we post a link to it on the website too, so, and in fact,
It's actually on the next, on the slide on the right.
oh, okay,
It says
okay.
newsletter right on it.
Yeah, so we've got on our updated website, that shows as a new item, so.
So your updated website, by the way, it looks good. So I guess this is one of the survey things that we upgraded.
Yeah, we did, and I'll, back to the community engagement piece, we had a focus group, or we requested citizen feedback and had a handful of people weigh in and find some of the bugs. Now, full disclosure, I'm sure anybody doing a new website, there's links that need to be updated, but it's nice, it's user-friendly, and
It had on it the other day when I looked at it a week ago, it had that it was a soft launch. So when will this be unsoft?
oh, it's live now.
It's live.
So, yeah.
Fully
And
live,
it's-
no
it's
soft.
been
So I've hit 404 pages. Do I report that on our new
reported,
problem
yeah,
reporting
the dead
system?
links, and we can correct those pretty easily. Had a project to review shelter occupancy and management procedures. So the Animal Advisory Board, you might recall, made recommendations to City Council in September or so timeframe as a step in the right direction to limit the amount of animals in the shelter, offer a multi-pet permit in specific cases, as well as offer foster pet permits for those in the city who will follow the rules and are able to foster pets. So that's been adopted. The Animal Advisory Board, Lee's not here this evening, but I believe I know they're meeting later this month to talk about kind of the part two, which is related to kind of occupancy guidelines.
Yeah, as I'm saying, it's a little confusing now, the multi-pet permit, okay, but the fostering permit, when this was presented, I guess the manager over the animal shelter, he said we wouldn't be using this, that for some reason there was some policy we had within Saginaw that we would not call them to foster out animals.
So I'd have to double check. I can follow up with you, but I think that,
I thought we had that foster lady was there, and then we talked about making it happen, so
Yeah.
it's not, the animal shelter doesn't do it, it's people outside folks can foster.
right. So I think
That's how it works.
if the fosters meet the criteria, then staff would contact them and see if they can take, excess animals.
Yeah, but-
So,
Because it was really the foster folks that came to us wanting to be able to do that, right?
Correct.
I think that's how it worked, yeah.
yeah. And I'll
I
get
think we
to,
were waiting to see their inspection sheet.
Huh?
I think Jose was supposed to send us a copy of his inspection sheet.
Okay, yeah.
inspection. Yeah, happy to send that.
And we haven't seen that yet.
No, we have not. Neither one of them had we seen, yeah.
Sure, happy to send the permit forms.
Is that, yeah, is that it? So
Yep.
where are we at on the, but where are we at on, because that was one of them is looking at, I call it throughput, but the animal throughput.
So I think the Animal Advisory Board they'll meet to talk about throughput or guidelines for keeping animals, that sort of thing, the end of this month. We'll have some recommendation, move that forward. Yeah.
Do we have any improvement, do we know of it this year or between last year? I mean, like, so are we still been pretty much, well, I guess they call it the red, in the red on the cats?
I'd have to get you, I wouldn't want to speak out of turn, but I'll get you updated information as far as capacity. So I think unfortunately we're pretty steadily at capacity.
It's always at capacity is what I've seen, right?
Yeah, and a lot of that I think is the shelter's a victim of their success. People know that animals aren't going to immediately or maybe as quickly be euthanized as other shelters, so there's more surrenders and that sort of thing, but I can get more information.
I was just going to follow up that, I couldn't pull it up on the computer because I've got this on there, but on my phone I found, if you go to the city website under the newsletter, you put in your email, first and last name, and subscribe, and then it'll get sent to you.
Last project is the flock, the public safety cameras. Believe that those are on order, and we should see some installations probably within the next 90 days. Is that fair? Some of the intersections on text out right away will take more time, but approved in the budget, and we're moving forward. So looking forward to get that implemented. Always nice to talk about awards. So you'll recall we received a gold award from Firehouse Magazine for the best station design for cities above 15,000 in the United States. Very proud of the fire station.
Wow.
Yeah. Chief Spears, he aged as dramatically, although he's a handsome young man, but being the project manager, I think that the architect and the construction manager probably have never seen an owner's rep like Chief Spear, so certainly appreciate his efforts.
You ready to do another one?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Oh my gosh, that's the right answer. Well, we moved the Veterans Memorial, and many of you were there for its debut for Veterans Day. Was really nice. It's been well received and a lot more space and parking, and looks great. Got some press in the Dallas Morning News about our adult education programs at the library, so that was fun. We were All-America City finalists in '23. We're intending to apply again, so keep our fingers crossed as to where we may.
There's no excuse this year for us not to win since we know what we're going out about.
Hey, I agree. If you let me know who I need to sweet talk, I'm happy to do it. Always fun to have ribbon cutting. So this was the Highland Station playground improvements. In the near future, we'll be doing the same with bond funds. So Opal Joe Jennings, Brian Schwingler, and then I'm sure we'll do a ribbon cutting for our new pavilions. So featured in some statewide publications for programs we have related to the Building Improvement Grant. We received an award from the Fort Worth Builders Association for Community Spotlight, which was...
Who's that guy on your right? I've never seen him before. What is he? How did he get in that picture?
Yeah, a few of us attended the awards ceremony, which was fun, and Rick Trice reprised his role, and I'm just happy that he, retired Rick is a whole lot of fun, so every once in a while he'll stop by and he'll be wearing like flip-flops and shorts, so he dressed up for the occasion. That was nice. So I'll leave you with this. I'd like you to be thinking about 24 proposed projects. Have a list before you of recommendations from staff. The last one was a recommendation from Councilmember Felige. These are some ideas, not set in stone. The idea would be to get a working list from the council, adopted by resolution, and maybe, have marching orders in February. It'd be great if we could get it. Code enforcement updates, focus on the hotels. We've had success in targeting code compliance towards specific areas. We certainly have some concerns related to some of the hotels. Fort Worth PD is working on, I don't know what the right term is, but nuisance abatement related to criminal activity on Blue Mountain Road related to some of the hotels. Have had discussions with Randy about standardizing our street signs. In fact, this may, if at some point in the future we move forward, settle the age-old debate of where is and where is not Saginaw. We have people routinely comment and don't know where they are. You could take a drive in other cities or other areas and see standard uniform templates for street signs. They probably have a logo, they probably have some design. If you take a drive through neighborhoods tonight, you'll see that it's a mixed bag. So it'd be nice to have the council approve a template and then start replacing them as we can.
Do they make some that people can't steal?
Yeah, theft proof, we'll have to work on that. I might add intersections, if you've been, certain areas have backlit intersections with LEDs, they're very visible. You can put the logo, it's just really, really pretty, and it helps to create a sense of place. Another discussion from Randy was talking through a sidewalk replacement program. I'm sure you all get complaints, questions, that sort of thing. Taking kind of a data-driven approach to that. Believe that those who were in attendance at the Texas Municipal League Conference had expressed interest in updating our landscape ordinance, which is a pretty big undertaking. We would use our planning consultant to do that, but it's probably time. It's probably 15 plus years old, if not longer. The multi-million-dollar question, we generally have an understanding of magnitude for a new shelter facility. It is a matter for the council of when. The only way we could do it is to bring it to voters as a bond, set the dollar amount, that sort of thing. Kind of mentioned this earlier, but the past plan would be to renovate the old library for staff needs, primarily public works, building inspections, code enforcement. And if we want to do that and get to construction, we need to have that designed sometime this year so that it could be bid as soon as it's vacated for the new library. Branding guidelines, this would be kind of an exercise to make all of our logo usage and templates and that sort of thing standardized. They're a little bit everything at this point. Everybody kind of recognizes this, I think, in various iterations. So. And then the last one was a recommendation idea from Councilmember Felige to explore lighting on the elevators, which has come up before. I want to say, in fact, we had a demo. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
We were at the fire station looking across the street.
Yeah, so full disclosure, everything can be done, just takes time and money. So happy to look at that and then talk to the property owners. But so leave you with this. If you have other projects, please let me know.
I do.
Yeah.
Our police station, seems like, they're falling apart. How come they're not on this list?
So our roof replacement should be underway here in the near future. As far as improvements to the station, we have kind of talked about adding covered parking, like carports, because
Where do we stand with the AC and the heat exchanges?
so I believe, is the chief here?
So the heat exchangers have all been replaced. The big AC unit that we've been waiting so long on, it just cleared the border this past week. So apparently it has a harder time getting across the boundaries of the United States than some other applications, but that is on its way to us. Once that AC is installed, then the roofers will be prepared to begin their work, but they want that AC unit installed on the roof before they begin.
Well, I mean, I'm not necessarily talking about covered parking, but I mean, just any sort of other structural things that we need to consider working on.
Are you talking about an expansion or just like fixing what we have?
Fixing what we got.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's not gonna be cheap, but, I mean, there's some pretty deep inclines, maybe landscaping or something needs to be fixed that. Paul and I've been there multiple times for CPAA meetings, and the lights are flickering and doing all kinds of crazy things outside.
I can answer that too. We had an electrician out 2 weeks ago that's fixed a lot of the ballast issues that we had, so they've been replacing those with new LED lighting.
So that was one of the things that we had talked about, is for all of our buildings and
Facilities, yeah.
stuff, a preventive maintenance schedule and
So-
that. So it seems like to me that's what we'd do, is we'd have something like that
Yeah.
to actually put together an official policy, allocate money to it, to where our buildings are, you know.
I like it.
So we've bid out twice now a building services contract externally and really not gotten a good response. I think maybe the latest discussion is potentially requesting the city council add a building maintenance coordinator position, like a dedicated person, because right now you have half a position in public works.
Well, I think that's what we had asked for in the beginning, but, I mean, is there any way we could find out what our status is with some of the things that we need? I think we need to add that onto this work plan.
So building maintenance.
Well, even if we don't hire anybody right away, we just need to know what needs to be repaired, because I don't want to have to wait a year and a half, 2 years to fix the air conditioning at the police department again. That's something that needs to be done right away.
I think that's easily done. Each department head of each facility could submit a request into us. We could compile a list of major things that everybody sees that needs to be done. I don't really have a person I can send out right now. I mean, I got him, he's half and half, so.
Doesn't each department head know what their building needs? I mean, basically.
And we could probably collect a lot of good information.
So it sounds like we need an item on here, building maintenance plan. That could cover a lot of things.
Yeah, and, you know, we could start collecting things from the, that database that is going online now.
Sure.
How to staff it, what to do, what we want, how to fund it, all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
we gotta
That's
start
part of the plan, yeah.
somewhere.
So that-
We
that's
gotta
a
start
work plan.
establishing something.
That's a great work plan item, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Let's add it. And let's, other council members, we don't have to answer all this stuff tonight, because I don't want us to stay here all night, but if you have ideas for other work plan items, just email them to Gabe, and we can discuss at future council meetings. Mayor, you have a question?
I have already thought of two that, first of all, I love this list. It's all great. The railroad crossing on McElroy, I know it's on the capital improvement plan, but if we put it on the work plan, I think it'll get more visibility and be prioritized. And I also think it's a safety issue. You hear about all these derailments, and those tracks are in such bad shape, you know, that could,
What can we do for the?
well, I want a concrete road there and get
Yeah.
that intersection fixed.
We-
And it's on the capital improvement plan.
We've talked about this in the past. In fact, the council, either the December meeting or the meeting before, approved the overlay program through the county. So the thought is to have the county come and overlay McElroy from the boulevard to how far east?
Burlington Road.
To Burlington. It could become a question then to bring that back in a concrete.
Right.
Maybe, and we mentioned this before, we don't do the western section of McElroy and kind of flip.
Mhm.
So,
I think that would be great. Also, maybe we could study the feasibility of adding more bike lanes to the city and try to determine where those might be placed and
bike lanes. Yeah.
where they might be feasible.
Would that match into the park sidewalk, the pedestrian, you know, what do you call those? Trails.
Would that impact the trail system? in
They
the parks
should,
plan?
we can be one and the same, right?
It would make sense to tie it into that, for sure.
Yeah. So Gabe, on your 2023 plan, can you take your list, and if it's been completed, mark completed?
Sure.
And if it hasn't been completed, give us a date on
Okay.
when it will be completed. That way, we can look at that and see how much stuff we have bleeding over from 2023 into 2024.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I want to do is this end up to be this unfeasible list of want to do things. I want it, to me as a councilman, I want to get this list down to something we actually have a chance at least phase one, getting it done next year.
Yeah, and I'd like to see, you know, a high-level schedule. When do we plan to
Yeah.
start working this, and how long do we anticipate it taking, and when do we expect it to complete?
When do we want to finalize this work plan? What's a good target? End of February? What, I don't remember what we've done in the past. What's a good target? What have we done in the past? Do you remember?
I think the sooner the better.
Yeah, February would be great if we could maybe
So
talk
let's
about.
target the second meeting in February to finalize the work plan list? Does that sound reasonable?
Or the first meeting, I mean.
I'd like the first week.
First week?
Yeah.
If that's feasible.
Yeah.
Well, what is today? Day's Tuesday?
Second.
Second. Well, I was just thinking of Tuesday, so we should all be able to get you our what our ideals are by this Friday.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I can bring back the updated project list and,
So we discuss again the second meeting in January, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
we can finalize by the first meeting in February? Does that sound
Yep.
reasonable?
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Okay.
happy to do
I
that.
like that plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm with Nick. I'd like to see what we haven't finished, or haven't even started, if there's any.
Well, the good news is we've started, and we're well on the way for all of our projects, just a matter of finalizing, so. Yeah, but yeah, happy to do that. Excited for.
All right, we got a plan. Any other questions for Gabe before we wrap up? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
No executive session, hallelujah. Item 7, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Edwards, Councilman Big Horse, second. Let's- Are we off? Okay. All in favor of adjourning, raise your right hand. At, what time we got? 8:57. We're out of here. Thank y'all.